his day number one. Emilio Forbes as well, despite seeing that loss on stream, still did incredibly well to be able to move forward. And then you also have Simone Sanvito just seeing all across, honestly, across the table. Like, you could have put any number of.
Hey y'all, just figured I'd have a little bit of a watch party going. It looks like I'm up and running, but yeah, I got the TCG right below me here. The big screen is the VGC, all the socials next to me right there. Yeah, so just gonna watch some of the VGC specifically, listen to the commentary, hang out, have a little bit of a watch party. Got Asher right behind me. Right, Ash? I'm gonna embarrass the puppy. There he is. Asher's hanging out too. So yeah, we're gonna have a watch party. So if I'm not talking, it's because I want to listen to the commentators. So yeah, or it's because the AC is kicking on, and I'll crank the commentators up for that. I'll probably have to hop off a stream because this is gonna be a lot of hours. Yeah. So I'm surprised that my computer is actually running two YouTube videos and being able to stream. I think my computer is going to get very overheated, so this video is going to crash and burn at some point. I have a gut feeling. But I got dinner next to me. I got 2 sodas because I accidentally opened one. Why did they just leave the empty blanks there? Like, that's... kind of wish they just, got rid of them. Or, like, it's an even number. Move 2 of them over and then get rid of the bottom 4. That would have looked clean. Alright, well, I'm going to turn up the casters. And
ended up getting a second place this year at an international championship. And Paul Ruiz, he is a former world champion.
Yeah,
he is going to be.
I took a Medify training session with Paul Ruiz. He really was awesome. He explained everything really, really, really well. It was right at the beginning of Reg C. So.
But of course, we also have to talk about our day 2 invites from Japan.
Yeah, so.
Just a couple of names, but as Anna said in the intro, I think all eyes are on Kaito Ari for this event. Ended up getting the first place at the Japan
one thing that I really need to say is that none of this is my streams. These are just the Pokemon Company International streams.
I think if I had to pick one favorite
So yeah.
entire championship, it would be Kaito. He has been so impressive. Of course, winning Japanese Nationals in itself is really difficult. And even though that was in a different format, he has had tremendous success in the Regulation D format. He was one of the first
And I left my phone out in my car.
team builders that I've seen publicly post teams. And he had one team that had a lot of interesting text. For example, it had Taunt on Heatran, Leaf Storm on Amogus. It's really clear that he understands.
Again, I apologize if the fan kicks on because it gets toasty up here, especially in the middle of the summer.
I think Shohei Kimura is also a player that has had really good performance, qualifying for multiple World Championships. He missed out on the top cut of the World Championships just by 1 round last year, so he's definitely looking for revenge. And for these players, this is the first time that the World Championships is in Japan. Definitely feel like there's more on the line for them because winning on the home turf would mean everything.
It really would, and especially in the home turf of just Pokemon in general, I think it's really cool experience for everybody. We also have some phenomenal players that are coming in from Asia Pacific. So gotta keep your eyes on these names because these are the players that won their respective nationals to be able to make this stage.
I kind of wish Pokemon in North America had nationals. That would be cool.
But make sure you use the hashtag PokemonWorlds on social media to let us know what you're excited about.
Make sure you get all of your free stuff that they're probably going to explain in a quick minute.
We just want you to be a part of the conversation.
Only one that I still have left. One is...
Oh, man, I mean, of the Bramble Gas. Well, let's think too many people had on their bingo card as like a truly competitive Pokemon coming into this event.
Yeah, so here's a little sneak peek for you all. Our very first round is going to feature Emilio Forbes, who made it through yesterday's day of competition, finished second at the 2018 World Championships, and used Bramblegas to get there. Now, Bramblegas actually came out on the games that Emilio played on stream, but it didn't actually have a huge impact. It was really interesting, but I think the main takeaway I had from it is that it's difficult to pilot, right? And I think that it can have so much potential, but it is really frail. Emilio using the Focus Sash variant in particular. His opponent is going to be Eric Rios, who of course finished top 16 at the World Championships last year, won the European International Championships last year.
Sounds like we're getting right into the
top 4 of the World Championships in the seniors
round 1 for today, which is kind of nice.
And
don't worry, I'm grinding out the raids right now. I was supposed to be getting my Mew, but
Eric Rios is one of the most notable players in Regulation D. He won a grassroots tournament using this Tornadus Golden Go Reggie Drago team, and so I'm curious if he's brought that to this tournament.
Spoiler alert, he has not.
Wow, okay.
And
yeah.
I'm actually really disappointed in that. And just for the fact that I think Reggie Drago is a very cool Pokemon to be able to see in this format, but still has some tricks up his sleeve. Let's go ahead and introduce both of our competitors for the Swiss round number 1 of day 2 of the Pokemon World Championships. We're gonna have Emilio Forbes and Eric Rios already set up on stage.
I tried to figure out how to replace the picture way down below with the with some raids, but my computer is too old, so I couldn't connect my capture card to OBS. So
I think one of the biggest questions
yeah.
going into this tournament is, can Tornadus teams continue to succeed? Eric found tremendous success in the early format with the team featuring Choice Specs Golden Go as well as Reggie Drago, but I think that team had a huge target on its back going into this event. So
for sure.
Eric's team here, super interesting. It's actually got the Ursaluna combined with Tornadus. Now, Ursaluna was a really, really highly discussed Pokemon going into this tournament. Can you operate it correctly? Because this thing is an absolute monster. So Eric's running a really interesting set. He's actually got Bulk Up on the Ursaluna, and he's got Trick Room on his Flutter Mane as well. So the idea is that you can utilize this Ursaluna both under Trick Room and potentially under Tailwind from the Tornadus as well. One other fascinating thing here is the Bramblegas, of course, going up against a team like Eric's. Well, hey, there is the Heatwave, for example, from Heatran, and there are a lot of Pokemon that Bramblegas can actually do well into. One other crazy thing about Eric's team is that he is running Rocky Helmet Flutter Mane. That is not a common item on that Pokemon whatsoever.
No, it is not. You know that Rocky Helmet is going to be on more of a defensive Pokemon like the Amoonguss, just something that can be able to tank those hits and actually deal that chip damage with the Rocky Helmet. Maybe there just wasn't really another item that Eric wanted to be able to put for offensive pressure, but also still, like, when it's going to be rocking the Trick Room, that's a really big target. If you think Eric is going to be leaning into that Trick Room mode, just get it off the table.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the big question for this, right? How do the players approach speed control? Because Emilio's team aims to just outspeed your opponent, right? But Eric does have Trick Room. Now, Emilio has Taunt on the Tornadus, so if Eric leads that Flutter Mane, for example, you can just go for a Taunt immediately onto it. One of the other questions I have is just the interaction between the Tornaduses here, but I think it makes sense for Emilio to just lead the Tornadus and pressure.
I would love to see a Bramblegas versus Blizzard.
Tornadus coming out on both ends.
We saw this yesterday as a common theme. You want to be able to lead the Tornadus just so you can get up the Tailwind or at least pressure to be able to match Tailwinds on either side. So I think you have got a great call there to look at how the Tornadus speeds actually interact with each other.
Yep.
Because we did see that can matter if you can get the Tailwind up first or not.
Absolutely. One of the things to pay attention to in this matchup is, do both players just set up Tailwind immediately? Does one player try to stagger their Tailwind potentially by a turn? Golden here definitely putting on a lot of pressure with that immediate Make It Rain. Won't be able to knock out that Urshifu immediately, so Urshifu can of course retaliate back with something like that Surging Strikes, which is fairly powerful into both slots. By the way, this is a Choice Scarf Urshifu as well, so that's actually going to have a huge advantage in this Tailwind matchup, where if both players set up Tailwind, well then the Urshifu will just be the fastest attacker.
Well, Emilio's Tornadus is going to move first with a Tailwind, followed by Eric's. We're going to see a match of that just so Tailwind is active on both sides. But it's
U-turn.
U-turn. They always love seeing that choice on a Choice Scarf just because you know you're going to be able to get that U-turn in fast and pivot into something else that would be able to fare better for Eric.
Yeah.
And U-turn makes so much sense here.
Yeah, Heatran really the best and really only Pokemon I think you can safely switch into a Make It
forget if we saw much of Heatran in day one.
Switch into Bramble Gas. Bramble Gas, of course, is actually immune to that heat wave. So I wonder if we're gonna see it. Oh, there it is! And here we go.
You gotta get it in there. You already have Tailwind active, so you're gonna be entering into the field, getting a nice attack boost. And if it is a heat wave on the other side, then take another one. Why not?
Absolutely. This is one of the key ways to play around Golden Go, though, right? Like, make sure that the Make It Rain doesn't just pick up these big knockouts. Even though Tornadoes do a lot of damage, you get Heatran into a really nice slot. But, man, Bramble Gas has hit the field. It gets that attack boost immediately from Windrider. And if we see a heat wave come out, it's also going to get a boost from there as Tom goes into Heatran. This Heatran has Will-O-Wisp, so that's the main reason to deny it right now.
Yep. You also have the ability just to take the huge
That's a
air
lot.
from the Tornadoes.
Is it a Terra Blast by any chance instead of a heat
No
wave?
way.
No, it is a heat wave, so it will be an attack boost. But Eric here is running that air slash rather than liquid storm, so that's a great way to deal with Bramble Gas. Covers that switch in. Bramble Gas now at +2 attack, but it's not going to be able to do that much damage to Heatran anyway. Your only real means of offense is either Shadow Sneak. You could go for a Terra Blast here, actually. Okay,
That would be very
I was
interesting.
thinking about it, yeah. Like, the question is, do you want to actually go for the Ghost Terra and then go for the Terra Blast? And Bramble Gas is a pretty speedy Pokemon, but you still have to worry about the Tornadoes on the opposing side.
And you also have to consider whether or not you want to preserve the Terra for anything else that's going to be in the back.
Yeah.
Just to be able to contend with these
I mean,
hitters from Eric's side. That Heatran could be a problem.
Tornadoes should be in
Grass
Shadow
Grass
Sneak
Type.
range.
Tornadoes just gets knocked out,
okay,
but he
Emilio's
looks like
thinking
he's
about it,
committing to
though.
it.
Okay.
No way.
Oh, this could be an explosive turn. Are you able to just get a double knockout right now with your Tornadoes onto the opposing side and then Bramble Gas just onto Heatran? Here we go. 1 HP Bramble Gas with that Ghost Terra at +2 attack.
Apparently it's Rambo according to the
It is so risky to commit
captions.
to this when you know that the Bramble Gas doesn't have too much longer to be on the field. And it looks so happy to get the Terra hat here.
Okay,
With the
Liquid Storm, is it gonna miss? It misses Tornadoes.
No way!
Ooh,
Tornadoes
that's
will
big.
hang
Complete
on.
disaster.
But is this going to be enough now?
Oh, Bramble
Because
Gas
this is the
is just
question.
gonna, yeah, okay.
Terra Blast is going to go into the Heatran, but is it going to be able to secure the knockout on this turn?
It
And it
does.
does!
Wow.
Huge knockout there.
Yeah, that was probably
Hey.
worth it.
That was a critical Liquid Storm miss, but the Tornadoes here actually slower than the Bramble Gas. So Bramble Gas actually gets a huge knockout onto the Heatran.
That's great to
I think
know
that's
going
actually
into game
a great trade
2.
for Emilio because Heatran is such a big problem for Tornadoes and Golden Go. Now you've eliminated that, the Golden Go is in a much better position. So looks like Emilio wants to conserve that potential, but what a Terra there.
That's something that has always impressed me about Emilio. He's found these unique strategies or these unique Pokemon that he can really use to his advantage, and he's also figured out how to be so preservative with the Terra, just weave it in at the perfect moment. But here is the Flutter Mane to take its place, and for Eric, we are going to see a Flutter Mane from him as well.
All right, here we go. So we've got the booster energy coming out first. Let's see what that's going to be. It's going to be a special attack. All right. And on the opposing side, Eric's Flutter Mane here is
Rocky
the
Helmet.
Rocky Helmet, as we talked about earlier. So very bulky. That previous turn, by the way, huge interaction. Tornadoes actually ended up being slower than Bramble Gas, and you can see it took that Make It Rain on turn 1 as well. So if I had to guess, the Tornadoes has very little speed investment, if any, and probably is investing very heavily in Volt. If the Tornadoes were to move before Bramble Gas, that would have been a disaster. But now Flutter Mane in a position to just put on a lot of offensive pressure. It feels like Emilio just has the faster Pokemon right now.
You could also see the bulk in just how it was able to tank that Make It Rain early on. So it is still on the field right now, but is it going to be valuable in the situation? With, you just have the Air Slash, that's going to be a great way to deal a little bit of damage, but it's a protect from Eric's Flutter Mane to kick off this turn, as the Flutter Mane on Emilio's side was trying to target that down. You want to get into a range that you're going to be able to get a knockout onto it, but Tornadoes is for Liquid Storm.
Does it connect
But
this
can it
time?
connect with the
Oh, it does.
Tornadoes?
Does it KO? It
No, it doesn't.
Look at that bulk on Tornadoes.
That's wild to see that
Wow.
happen. And now it's able to dish it back, but Emilio survives as well.
Oh, that's so huge because
Tailwind
both
can
players
go back up.
Exactly, yeah. Both players are able to set up Tailwind once again. If you are able to get the knockout onto the opposing side,
I'd love
then
to
the
see a
other
taunt
Tornadoes
from
goes down, then you just have full speed control in this end game. But oh my goodness, the bulk on Tornadoes from both that's just split the sliver of HP. We saw the Moonblast, by the way, come out from Eric's end instead of, or sorry, Emilio's end instead of Shadow Ball. And the idea there is expecting the Flutter Mane on the opposing side to just go for that Terra immediately.
Yep. Yeah, it's Terra Water. So it would be more of a defensive Terra type leading into potentially the bulk investment being seen with the Rocky Helmet item choice. But I just imagine both trainers have to go for something like the Tailwind to match. Otherwise, you're not entirely sure you're going to be able to get the upper hand here. So,
Ever a trick room from Fluttermane on the opposing side is my
That would
question.
be wild.
Okay, it's just Tailwind.
hey, you match it maybe just in case, right? But it will be Emilio Slutterman going next. Tornadus finally going down on Eric's side after Emilio has tried so hard these last few turns. And with the Shadow Ball in response, that's both Tornadus knocked out and a free switch for both.
Yeah, this is such an interesting dynamic, right? Because right now Emilio has the faster Fluttermane. It feels like he's generally had the speed advantage. You've got Golden Go now, but
And
you've
Urshifu.
not have that Terra. Yeah, exactly. You've got Scarf Urshifu coming out at the back. So that's the idea of setting up the Tailwind rather than going for something like Trick Room. You know your Urshifu now is the fastest Pokemon. You can just go for Surging Strikes, of course, onto the Fluttermane slot. So the question is there any chance Fluttermane is trained in a way to actually survive the Surging Strikes? Because if so, that would be huge. The other question is, what Terra does Eric go for? He still has that up his sleeve. You've got the Water Terra on Urshifu, so that helps a little bit defensively around Fluttermanes. But you also have the Water Terra on the Fluttermane, which can be valuable in surviving a potential Shadow Ball.
It's going to come down to the wire already. Like, what intense game number 1 do you look at?
I think he goes Water Ursh.
What Pokemon is going to be terrestrialized? It is the Urshifu.
There's
So
no
Lon
way
Seth's
that
trying to be able to
Fluttermane's
boost
gonna
off those
survive.
Fluttermane attacks
Yep.
and also take away that Dark-type weakness to the Fluttermane on Emilio's side.
So
And that
does it
could pay
target
off
Flutter?
in spades.
Let's see.
Surging Strikes.
I would
It's
imagine
gonna
it's
be
a
into the
Flutter.
Flutter,
Okay,
but
no,
that's
that's so
not
much
gonna
damage.
survive.
Yep.
That is not a bulky Fluttermane on Emilio's side, and it will not be able to get a chance to attack.
And I think with that, it's really difficult for Golden Go to win the game, right? The way that Eric was able to get that second Tailwind up was so critical. I wonder how differently this game would have looked if the Tornadus had actually gone down, right? But now this Fluttermane just gets the Shadow Ball off. Doesn't KO the Golden Go, but Golden Go can't win 2v1 here. It is just not able to do enough damage quickly enough, so it gets the knockdown and a Flutter, but now you're just slower than Urshifu. So the way
Yeah.
Eric could serve this Urshifu until the end was so smart. Something
That's
about
really
it was
interesting.
basically like, okay, we're both going to set up Tailwind, so how do I figure to get a speed advantage to outspeed you? The way that Urshifu was conserved with that Water Terra in this net game was beautifully played.
We've seen that a lot already from the trainers that have taken the main stage, that Urshifu has been such a dominant force, and to see it preserved just for the final few turns has been super expertly done. Especially when you have to think about how to pivot your board position around to even be able to do that. You have to think so many turns ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have no idea what Emilio could do.
Earlier, but that's the downside of running Liquid Storm. I think it's really interesting because if you actually look at how both players were using Tornadus,
And we've got Mew versus what? And what kind of Mew is it in TCG?
You actually have so much more power into the Bramble Gas because part of the upside of Bramble Gas is into a lot of common Tornadus sets you can actually wall it. But with Air Slash here, you just go down
Looks
on
like
HP
it's just the
immediately, right? So
DTE
I think what's
Mew
really tricky in this matchup
that
is
they're
how you
playing,
actually deal with Heatran on the
or
opposing
Caleb
side, right?
Gadamer's
I think
playing.
Heatran just is able to
I love watching
is
Caleb
able-
Gadamer
like,
play.
the way that
He
his position is
always just looks like he's
Golden Go
so
Tornadus
in
off
control
really
of
really valuable.
everything.
When I look at Emilio's team, for example, Shiyu can
Just
like
calm, cool,
Heatran
collected.
actually
All of
doesn't have
these,
burst power,
all
but
of these
that's
people
valuable. And of course, you
playing
have Water
are
Urshifu on your side
just
of the
calm,
map.
cool,
That's gonna be
collected.
really valuable to Heatran. I think one of the main things to think about in this matchup is I think Emilio needs to basically just get better speed control. Trading Tailwinds doesn't work out super well when your opponent has the faster Urshifu with that choice card in the back.
I wonder though if Emilio maybe is expecting like a trick room option here for Eric,
Yeah.
because it did seem like with the Pokemon that Eric brought to that game number 1, he had that available if he felt like he needed to go for that based on what Emilio brought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes Eric's team so dangerous. If you look at Emilio's composition, it is just reliance on fast Pokemon. But with Eric's team, the Fluttermane can operate both inside and outside of Trick Room. Fluttermane
After
has really
this
good attack on that
match,
body.
I'm gonna go grab my phone and like actually listen to what the live stream sounds like. Maybe I'll turn on the
And so,
AC.
like you said, Rose, how do you cover
Sorry.
both Tailwind and Trick Room, right? Because often, if you
So
cover
tough.
for one, you aren't able to deal with the other accordingly. And doing that in a best of 3 is so stressful. And so I really, really love Eric's team building here. And I'm curious if we see him go with the Trick Room mode again, or just commit to the Tailwind mode again, saying, you know what, I've got Scarf Urshifu, that's just the best
Oh,
Pokemon
it's Mew
in
versus
the matchup for
Lugia.
both of us. I have so much speed with it, I'm just gonna outpace you with it.
I don't think Fluttermane can lead though if you are expecting Emilio to run back the Golden Go again.
Yeah.
Because then you probably have to commit the Terra to be able to actually get the Trick Room off. But it is going to to be just the Urshifu and the Tornadus once again, and Tornadus and Golden Go.
So I think what's interesting here is, okay, we're looking at the taunt this time around. So taunt was one thing that I thought could be really interesting because, like, let's say you taunt into the Tornadus, deny the Tailwind there. This is an option that we've seen Emilio have throughout the course of him playing at this World Championship. He hasn't really gone for it very much. Looks like he wants to just continue prioritizing setting up Tailwind. We're seeing actually the Choice Specs Thunderbolt locked in potentially this time, and the idea is, hey, if you were able to eliminate Tornadus immediately and your Tornadus survives, then you could go for a potential second Tailwind later on in the battle. But here we go, we're cycling between
I like that.
Tailwind. I think the main thing that Emilio needs
I
to
think
do
going
is
for
make
taunt
sure, like,
is
you get the better end of the speed
brilliant.
trading Tailwinds.
He's gonna go for it.
Or even
He did end up seeing his Tornadus move
Oh,
first, but
it's a Terra, though.
Terra? Is he gonna be able to Tornadus to Dark type?
Okay.
I was gonna say that would have been one of the biggest brave plays, but the Urshifu makes a lot of sense too. Just go ahead and hit hard, hit fast. We saw the terrestrialization on Eric's side go into that Pokemon in game number 1, but the taunt into Eric's Tornadus, it does mean that it's not.
I think I would have done two things. I would have definitely taunted the Tornadus, and then I would have tried to trick the specs onto the Urshifu.
Damage each hit. This is, of course, once again the choice card Urshifu. So not able to actually knock out that Golden Go. Golden Go does go for that Thunderbolt onto the Tornadus, and the Tornadus survives.
No way.
That's not a focus sash, ladies and gentlemen. It survived that choice specs Thunderbolt.
That is absolutely wild. That is the testament again into the bolt that this Tornadus has on Eric's team.
You gotta Thunderbolt the
This is not the first time
Urshifu.
we've seen such a critical survival of this Pokemon. And so you're still able to go for something like an Air Slash if you want to, but the very first thing on this turn is going to be that pivot from the Urshifu out into the Heatran.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's like Tornadus actually surviving is a little bit awkward because you're taunted at this point, right? So you're not able to actually get that Tailwind off. Your best bet is like an Icy Wind, maybe an Air Slash with Tornadus is going to be the Icy Wind option. So it's a little bit valuable, but yeah, this Specs Thunderbolt honestly putting in a lot of work. I think Shadow Ball may have ended up being a little bit better in this scenario where Tornadus ended up surviving, but I was expecting Tornadus to go down there pretty much 100% of the time. So once again, a testament to the bulk that that set is running because that's wild. And this time around, Bramblegas a really nice switch in. Yeah, you can just go for that knockdown onto Tornadus, conserve your Tornadus to get a potential second Tailwind up in the end game.
Go for it. Make sure that you have that speed control for later. Bramblegas hitting the field. We're hoping it's going to be able to pay off in another big way. But it's still going to be a switch from the Tornadus as well. So not going for the Air Slash like we saw last time, as Flutter Mane now coming back out onto the
a
field.
Shadow Sneak would
Heatran
be
just
evil.
protecting. Wants to play it safe, but that does leave this Flutter Mane vulnerable to this Thunderbolt coming out from the Golden Go. And that's still going to be a good chunk of damage onto both Pokemon.
Really decent damage across the board. I don't think I've ever seen Choice Specs Golden Go use so many Thunderbolts into every Pokemon, basically. So definitely has gotten a lot of value out of that. And okay, look at this. We are seeing the potential Ghost Terra immediately onto Bramblegas. We know that the Heatran slot just protected, so it's in an awkward position right now. And
I guess that makes a lot of sense, because then the next turn he can still Shadow Sneak the Flutter Mane.
This could be really huge because we already saw that Heatran took about half damage when it did end up switching into the field. And you do get a little bit of leftovers recovery.
If you haven't picked up on it, I'm cheering for Emilio because, you know, we gotta cheer for the spice.
I don't think there's much that Eric could switch into this situation that's going to be able to take it super well, but maybe you do end up throwing something like the Tornadus in there. It's already really low. Just sacrifice it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other interesting things about this position is, yeah, you feel forced to go for the Terra here, right? Because the Terra on the Flutter Mane cannot be used yet. It's already the Terra on, of course, on the Urshifu's end, but the Terra Ghost here is valuable just to get more increased damage, obviously, get that Terra Blast up, but doesn't get baited. Wow, Bramblegas here, just going for the Terra Blast, no protect here from the Flutter Mane, but of course we know this is going into the Tornadus slot.
It's still going to be valuable damage from the Golden Go onto that Flutter Mane. If it is going to be able to stick around, but Tornadus getting knocked out.
Yeah, it's slower than an Icy Wind, but it's Shadow Ball into Bramblegas. So
just
now it's down to 1 HP, yeah.
Focus Sash so valuable though, just so it can hang on to be able to use that attack boost once again. And this Thunderbolt is going to whittle this Flutter Mane down to very
Paralysis
low
would be
HP.
nuts right now.
These Thunderbolts are doing so much, but just not enough to actually get those knockouts. So Keytrain now comes back out onto the field. If we saw the boost reverse, like Terra Blast into a Flutterman and just Thunderbolt into Keytrain, that obviously would have been huge, but I think Emilio was saying, well, I just want to cover for Keytrain. If you stay with Keytrain, I punish you really heavily, but I think Eric makes a nice play in giving up the Tornadoes. Keytrain right now fairly well positioned, and once again, one of the other things to think about is that there is the Rocky Helmet on the opposing Flutterman, which makes things a little bit tricky as well. So right now, Eric can potentially consider just protecting the Keytrain and attacking with the Flutterman, go for something like a Dazzling Gleam, but Flutter goes for a Protect, does not want to face a Bramble Gas, but we know where Bramble Gas is targeting here. It's just a double Protect. Okay, stalling out the Tailwind.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But the Tailwind's staggered. Like, this is, that was,
and they're about to expire very soon. So
we forgot Tailwinds were staggered. Emilio has one extra turn. Because,
yeah, I think the idea here is,
oh wait, no, Eric never got the Tailwind set up. Okay, so that was completely done. My bad. That's...
So the Shadow Sneak Thunderbolt double up here covers for switching into Urshifu as well, right? And even if you lose both of your Pokemon, Emilio this time around has a lot more tools in this endgame. One other thing to notice that Eric does not have Aqua Jet on the Urshifu. You can't just go for that Choice Scarf Aqua Jet to knock out Tornadus before it sets up another Tailwind, and I think that's really critical. So it's looking really good right now for Emilio. Here is the Shadow Sneak onto the Fluttermane. That'll get the knockout right now.
Absolutely. Fluttermane did not have enough HP to be able to survive that, but the Rocky Helmet is going to also knock out this Bramble Gas in return. So I think you're okay with that. Like you get a chance to actually just get something in once again. Like the Tornadoes could come into that slot immediately, and you set up the Tailwind. But you cover. You just have to cover for it.
Yes, you might be wondering why Gopher Will-O-Wisp in that position, and the idea is I think Eric realizes I have probably already lost this game unless Emilio really makes a big mistake. Could go for Heat Wave there, get the double knockout, but as you see, yeah, there's Urshifu and Tornadus in the back there, right? So Emilio's played this so well. I love the turn 1 adjustment. He did exactly what he needed to, which was eliminate the opposing Tornadus, and I think in this game, the Urshifu switch up was also so smart. Now you have that guaranteed knockout with that Surging Strikes, and Emilio looks like he's about to take the second game.
It's going to be really tough for both of these Pokemon to survive that on Eric's side, so start thinking about this game number 3.
I think the main thing that I'm thinking about is Emilio really lost the trade-off in terms of the speed control. Emilio won the trade-off in speed control this one. Game 1 it was difficult because Eric just matched the Tailwind, but that taunt on Tornadus just denying Tailwind immediately is really critical. So one thing you can think about if you're on Eric's end is we just see Surging Strikes KO Golden Go. Of course, we know that Urshifu is going to knock out the opposing Heatran. Now it's going to be a 2v1, and we should see Emilio secure the game from that spot. But you know, the main point to think about is there any way in which you can trade your Tornadus on turn 1? So you kind of force the taunt out, but then Tailwind doesn't go up, right? And then now with Scarf Urshifu in the end game, you potentially outspeed everything. So we just see trades here, but yeah, Tornadus gets to come in for free, and it's a 2v1 at this point.
Yeah, even though Eric's Urshifu was of course faster with the Choice Scarf, locked into Surging Strikes, and you still have the ability for this Tornadus to go for that speed control to be able to take that away from Eric's Urshifu. And yeah, close combat is at least going to be able to whittle it away. Oh my gosh.
I was thinking the only way in which like you could actually win this if you were Eric is if like your Urshifu was super bulky for some reason and close combat was not even a 2-hit knockout. And then so it's like 2 close combats go into your side, you eat up the drops, and then you know go for Surging Strikes. I don't even know if that gets a knockout, but yeah, this is the whole point of conserving Tornadus in this matchup, right? Get that late game kill, which will ensure that you outspeed, and 2 close combats will finish it off. And that's why Urshifu is one of the best Pokemon in the format. Its ability to just break through all these protects makes it so powerful.
Close combat's gonna do the job, and we're gonna head to a game number 3 in
our
first Swiss round of day 2. And this match is already delivering.
It absolutely is. I think the adjustment to bring Urshifu for Emilio, as well as the decision to go for that aggressive turn 1 target onto Tornadus, really changed the outcome of this battle significantly. So Emilio, of course, recognizing, hey, your Tornadus is slower than my Bramble Gas here, so I will be able to get the taunt off onto you. You don't have something like a Mentor. You don't have Protect either. So if I taunt onto that slot, that's already really good for me. One thing that is critical is knowing that Tornadus actually can survive that Thunderbolt, which I was definitely caught off guard by. Another thing to note here is that Eric's Tornadus does have Icy Wind, so you could go for
Let's get our Mew.
something like Tornadus Urshifu lead and switch switch it off on turn 1, expect the taunt, say, you know what, I'm going to go straight for Icy Wind plus Water Terra Surging Strikes instead, try to knock out your Tornadus, and then with that, I conserve my Tornadus for the late game. I think that's one approach you can take. I think another approach is the Trick Room combo that we talked about earlier, but the question is how easy is it to really execute that? I think you could also look towards potentially leading Heatran immediately, but I think what makes Heatran awkward here is the Bramble Gas. If you keep clicking Heat Wave, Bramble Gas can just switch in and get that attack boost, and that can be a little bit scary. So those are a couple of ways that I think Eric can potentially think about adjusting going into game 3.
What's really tough about setting up the Trick Room on Eric's side, the Flutter main is just at such a disadvantage when you take a look at Emilio's options to be able to deal with it right away.
Yeah.
And there isn't any redirection, so you can't necessarily get that up and running quickly, and because of how bulky and slow most of the Pokemon are, Emilio, regardless, can get a ton of damage down onto either side without really blinking or even taking as much damage in return. So Trick Room, I think it's risky. I think it could pull off, but I also wonder if, we talked about a Heatran lead, what do you think of Heatran terastallizing in this match?
Yeah, it's awkward because if it Terras, then you suddenly become weak to the Bleak Wind Storm from the opposing side. So that's one of the reasons why Tornadus is so good, right? Like having that flying coverage is super nice. So, but I am curious because I think Tornadus Heatran definitely a possible lead from Eric's end. I think you could try to go like Rillaboom Flutter for Trick Room. I think that's really hard to execute. So I would expect the Tornadus once again. It is going to be Tornadus, but it's actually be Tornadus Flutter this time around. So
Okay.
a brand new lead, but another adjustment here is it's going to be Urshifu.
Urshifu is hitting the field already, and he saw just how important the Urshifu was for Emilio's game plan in that game number 2. But what's really interesting about this is, you could taunt, but what?
Exactly. Like, this is actually really stressful to play because it's like, if you call the wrong thing, right, taunting the Tornadus, there is the potential Trick Room option from Fluttermane. This is Water Terra Rocky Helmet Trick Room Fluttermane. So if you go for that Water Terra and that Trick Room and taunt does not go into that slot, and there's like an Ursaluna waiting in the back, this game can go really, really downhill very quickly. So it's a really interesting lead, right? Because
I don't know how I feel about it, but I'll take Terra Psychic Mew.
So like, what means a speed control you commit to? And actually, it's going to be
So,
cool to go coming down, which
I'll take
generally
it.
a safe switch in unless we saw a surprise Shadow Ball from Flutter here. But there's the taunt to start.
Okay, well, Tornadus is gonna fall for the taunt, but
Oh!
a Sunny Day!
Oh
Wow!
my goodness, the Shadow Ball! It
What?
was the Shadow Ball!
The Shadow Ball to the Golden Go to call it, but Golden Go is gonna take so much damage despite the fact that it's going to be able to survive. That is a major amount of damage that Golden Go may not be able to recover from.
Yeah, you know, I'm saying it's probably a pretty safe switch in there, but no, Eric's like, I am just going to Shadow Ball there. Sunny Day, by the way, there, of course, would have activated the Photosynthesis and given Fluttermane a boost, and so that was kind of the idea there. So, Golden Go right now, still really scary. Yeah, Tailwind plus Make It Rain here looks really, really powerful. We know that Tornadus is bulky enough to survive the Make It Rain unless you go for a Steel Terra. We also know that Fluttermane here has the Water Terra. If there's a Heatran in the back, you can consider protecting the Fluttermane, for example, just switching Tornadus out into Heatran, but a beautiful Shadow Ball from Eric on turn 1 here. Okay,
Yeah.
we're switching out. Is it Heatran coming out?
It has to be Heatran.
It looks like it's gonna be
Ursaluna.
So a huge adjustment here for Eric because
Is
we
it gonna
haven't
be
seen that at all yet.
Water Terra Trick Room? Is that a possibility
No way.
right now? There's
That's-
the Terra.
It is the water type for this Fluttermane, and so no longer will it end up being a super effective
This is
attack
gonna be
if it
bad.
doesn't Make it rain. But Tailwind here, this is so risky. This could go horribly wrong if it is going to end up being the Trick Room. That's a lot of damage coming out for the Make It Rain. And after the special attack drop, we're gonna see
it's
the Trick Room come out.
He goes for it! Eric Rios gets Trick Room up. Ursaluna hits the field. Guts activates just at the right time thanks to that Flame Orb. And setting up Trick Room when your opponent instead of Tailwind is the dream come true right now.
Yeah.
You can see the switch though. That Emilio is
That
covering
this
over
makes a lot of
because at
sense.
this point, this
Because
Ursaluna
now
can
if
get out of
he
hand
facades
very quickly.
into the
One thing to note about the
Tornadus,
Ursaluna set right now
does
is Bulldog,
nothing.
Headlong Rush, Facade, Protect. So, with that Ramble Gas switch in right now that's being considered, you are completely immune to Facade. The burn damage is also slowly ticking down on the Ursaluna right now. So Ramble Gas obviously a great Pokemon to bring out in this current moment. One other thing to think about is with Ramble Gas out, you can actually go for, say, a super effective Power Whip now onto the Fluttermane. But I think a necessary switching here to try to slow out the Trick Room.
You You have to do just anything at this point because you set up tailwind.
Doesn't
That's
go
a
for the
headlock rush.
Eric is playing lights out right now. I'd say he's really played perfectly, turn after turn after turn. Gets the knockout. On
This
the
is going to be a shadow ball.
On the Bramble Gas is also going to be broken. And there's the shadow ball. Amazing, amazing targeting by Eric throughout the entire course of this battle.
This has been just such a commanding game number 3. The fact that Eric has been able to make this adjustment into the trick room mode and, Emilio going for the tailwind, that was absolutely devastating. You're still able to bring in your own Urshifu, but can you actually survive any of these hits from Ursaluna?
Yeah, I think what's just so tricky is setting up that tailwind earlier, right? Like when tailwind goes up and trick room goes up on the opposing side, you're just in such a difficult position. One thing that Emilio could have done if tailwind didn't go up on his side is like some scary base, drop your own speed, for example, but that can't even be done right now. So this is really tricky. You do have the Aqua Jet though to at least try to get the knockout onto the Ursaluna slot, but Eric is just not giving Emilio any room here as Rillaboom comes out, another adjustment. Oh my goodness, Eric Rios is...
That's
nuts.
I'm literally having a loss for words right now.
I'm so impressed. Bramblegast is going to make a pivot as well, but this Rillaboom is just the perfect response for anything that Emilio can bring out here. The Terra commit, it does go over to the Urshifu and it makes it Terra Water, but what would happen at the end of the day? Rillaboom is on the field. It has Woodhammer to be able to pressure it down. And it's also going to resist any sort of water type attack when the Aqua Jet comes through.
My goodness. This is so impressive right now. So Rillaboom covers for that switch. Fluttermane just gets a free move blast right now. What makes this so tricky in this endgame at this point is that you don't have Protect on Emilio's end. Emilio's team is generally a really fast-paced team, so Trick Room going up on the opposing side is just like a complete nightmare, right? So, yeah, like, you've got Tornadus out right now, but it is just going to bait to another attack. The Urshifu has committed to Terra, but of course it will just bait to any potential grass type attack like the Woodhammer from Rillaboom.
You gotta
I was
detect.
wondering if you do end up actually going for something like a scary face option, but I think playing it safe here to try to stall out another turn in the trick room is going to be your best bet. So it is going to be able to save itself with the Woodhammer.
The no fake out surprises me.
But this Fluttermane still gets a chance to go for the move blast, and that's just a clean knockout onto the Tornadus.
I honestly think Eric Rios has played this third game flawlessly. He has called every turn correctly. He's not given up anything. He made a huge adjustment after games 1 and 2.
That's very accurate.
Ursaluna, we had not seen this Rillaboom at all. He brought the perfect form Pokemon. And as well, we're talking
There
about
hasn't
that
been a
feedback
single
from Ray Rose,
knockout on
he
Rios' team.
and yeah,
This
he
is
denied the
this is a
Tornadus on the
good
turn,
match.
the turn just goes up. If that turn
This
had
is a
gone
world
instead of
championship
the
match.
game, I think would look really differently. But as soon as Trickroom goes up, such a good position. Urshifu goes for that double, but is not going to get it, and I think that should secure the game here. As we basically see a flawless game from Eric Rios in game 3.
A huge Woodhammer to be able to knock out this Urshifu. And this Bramblegast does not have too much life left. And Eric with some fantastic adjustments in game 2, and even more wild adjustments in game number 3, is going to be able to secure a victory here as it gets knocked out to this Rocky helmet.
Does manage to get a knockout on the Fluttermane on the way out, but oh my goodness, that was such an exciting way to start this day, because if you look at Eric's Pokemon,
Yeah, that
these
was
are
really
these are
cool.
all just fairly standard Pokemon, but
Yeah.
I love this team so much. Like
Air/Tornadus?
Air/Tornadus, you've got
Alright.
the Sunny Day as well. Like Tornadus Flutter is elite. It's
I'm
so
sorry,
good,
but
like,
I'm not a huge fan of the interviews and stuff. So I'm gonna just take a quick tune into the TCG.
Specifically Lugia, for example, and you can take a knockout on Lugia without using any power tablets, in theory, which is important. As we saw, you really need your power tablets later on in the game to take these big knockouts against Pokemon that have V-Guard energy attached to them. So yeah, in this game, we do not see Ice Cube, we just see the Metallica immediately. Caleb also realizing, well, yeah, I mean, last game he kind of had to put it
So
down to
if
roll
he's
it out.
playing Meloetta, then he's probably playing the Fusion Strike build, but I haven't seen any.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This
In
is
his deck.
generally what Mew players want to see. 3 Genesect, 2 Mew, 1 Meloetta. And just piggybacking on your point a second ago about the Lugia and the boss's orders, you're 100% correct. Daichi needs double Lugia.
Yes.
Daichi has to get 2 Lugia V out. If you go first, you can go with just 1 and it's fine. You cannot end the turn with a single Lugia. Now we do see a boss
Arceus setting the discard pile.
so there is 1 in the discard pile from that professor's research, I should say. Do we see a second Lugia V or a way to... yes, we do. 2. Okay, that is absolutely huge.
Nice.
And there is a Professor's Research for next turn, potentially. So, no Archeops in hand yet, but this is not a bad start. So, yeah, I'm alright if I'm Daichi here.
It looks pretty nice. We also saw Caleb sitting on the part of the peak, which is a guard, which can be very strong for actually both of these players. If
Alright,
it's played
I
second
am going to
round,
run out to my
but
car,
if played in the wrong moment,
and
such
I should heat up my
a
dinner
difficult
too.
card to deal with for both of
So
these
enjoy
decks.
listening to the
Because
TCG stream in the
it's like
little tiny
both
box
of these
right
decks play them
below.
to counter the other
I
one.
need to get better at
Yeah,
practicing
they
with this whole
really do.
camera stuff.
I've seen enough games on
But
stream
yep.
this year where new players will play
I'm
a
gonna
path
go
thinking, you know,
heat up
stop
dinner,
Lugia using his V-Star
grab my
power,
phone,
but then
see
just
how
really
the
turns to
stream's
robot
sounding,
attacks Genesect and they can't find the
since,
lost vacuum or
yeah,
a counter
and
stadium,
then
they just draw nothing and lose.
it's not too hot
I've
yet,
commentated those games
except
this
for my
season.
computer.
It's really
My
awkward.
computer's not doing
But
too
then
bad.
again,
It's-
Lugia
it's good.
does basically nothing until you get the
Alright.
Arcus V-Star out. So path to the peak can be big, but it really is that question of how much is it hurting me. Now we do see Power Tablet basically just burn to draw an extra card, but we saw these damage modifiers, especially against big Pokemon with V-Guard energy, they can be very, very valuable in the mid to late game.
Yeah, but now that Daichi did play 2 Lugia V, which was very important to counter like a potential boss play. But because you have 2 Lugia V in play, it means your opponent can also play an escape rope to get the same knockout. Of
Yes.
course, you have the power type, it's not something that you want to just throw in early at the game. But this is kind of the destiny that I think new players have. You need to draw so many cards that often you draw into power table and I just have to use it because I need to draw more cards. As we see, Caleb preparing for a much bigger play. We see the Forest Seal Stone being attached, which is the one card that can give you the last kind of piece that you need. As Caleb is now just trying to get either an energy or an escape rope.
Yeah, either would be alright here. We've got it looks like a Cramomatic getting rid of an Ultra Balls. It's a big flip here right in the middle of the table. It is a Tails! So no extra card from Cramomatic. And that looks like that might be... oh no, we seem to have one Genesect left. So Caleb can still access a couple more cards in his deck. He's just deciding he could potentially play the Power Tablet, or he could just put Power to the Peak down and wait till next turn if he wants to. Actually, Meloetta, I believe, is now in range of getting KO on the Serena.
Yes.
So it might just be...
And it's also still not too late to take a knockout on Lugia, for example, with the Meloetta as well. It's very difficult because you kind of don't want to use too many cards, but you also need to draw a lot. Yeah, so Caleb here now, he's the more experienced Mew player. And I am...
nothing good off of that last Genesect David. Energy and Power Pad. Nothing he really wanted there at all. I mean, he can play the Power Pad to get Iona back, I suppose, but I'm not seeing a pivoting option in his hand.
That really hurts. Well, you can use the Forest System for like the last piece, but right now you have 2 energy, 2 power tablets. That's 200 damage, right?
Yes, correct.
So not enough. You would need 1 more damage modifier. Yeah, as we see Caleb just
After the big judging. Judge path.
Yeah.
And this is a combination we see a lot from players. Essentially, Judge puts your opponent down to a 4-card hand, Path to the Peak turns off their abilities, so it basically forces Daichi to try and get a second Archeops in the discard pile, and the Counter Stadium, and the Lugia V-Star, just to get rolling next turn from a 4-card hand, which is incredibly awkward.
Yeah, and it also turns off Dominion, which is kind of the safe bet that you still have. Like you can get like maybe a Roma for it, or you can get an Ultra Ball. Let's see what Caleb is drawing, because the escape rope would still be very nice to have in this situation.
Yeah, either piece. It's
Not
Ice
a very
Cube,
nice
Nest Ball, and
hand.
Double Turbo. Oh, he just passes!
This is not looking well for Caleb.
No, but if you're going to pass after a Judge Path. Because at least then you put your opponent in a super awkward situation. And to be fair, Daichi does play 2 Luminion V, so it is an important card. That is turned off right now. So we see a Tails here on capturing a Roma. That means a basic Pokemon.
I think this is exactly what he wanted, because if I'm correct, there was a stadium card that I just had.
Oh, it's a stadium, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, a lot of the time you're looking for that head, so you can go and get yourself either.
Alright, and we're back.
Star. If he's got a counter stadium, then yeah.
The stream sounds okay. You can definitely... I love my new microphone.
He's
But you can definitely hear the fan
I wouldn't really
blowing
like to
from my
get the
computer overheating.
liability to have on your
I'm
bench.
going to
And
just
they have so much
update
draw power that they can just get
the
into
description.
The, yeah, of course. As we see, also Professor Burnett just coming down, so they're actually opting to not actually go for the play, just yeah, search the deck for. Oh,
He's using
very
Professor-
difficult. Yeah,
He's just counting his. This is a deck search. He's just counting the energy here.
yeah, I was just thinking about like what the line of play is that you're trying to go for, because I mean he didn't look too happy with the tails. If he would have flipped heads, he could have already get like 2 archives in play, and then yeah, probably just attack with a very big like Lugia V with a lot of V guard energy attached to it. That was probably the line of play there, but now there's Dominion in hand,
Lugia
or
with
maybe I.
Genesect. Lugia should be able to KO Genesect, right?
There we
Yes.
go.
So maybe that's kind of a look. I don't need both my Lugia, so use one to kind of trade 2 for 2, and then I can get a KO.
We are
Maybe
having my
with
mother's
Metaletta, and then that's 6
secret-
prizes. You know, being able to finish off with that secret
My mother's
prize
secret
KO and sometimes being
family
able to
recipe.
finish.
It is
I
called
mean,
taco
I think
lasagna.
that's where we're going here. It's just
Pretty much
guaranteeing
a lasagna, but instead of noodles, it's tortilla chips.
Yeah,
Instead
I
of
was not 100%
uh,
sure if the stadium
meat sauce,
outside
it's like refried
was
beans,
stadium, which,
taco seasoned ground beef.
yeah, basically.
There's still ricotta cheese though, so it's like really creamy too.
He also knows.
And there's regular cheese, and then you put on top another layer of chips, and then you bake it.
Well, you play judge and then you didn't play any.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
And there is a way apart from you can play.
But
Daichi
once you
plays
start mixing it all up,
and
because the form doesn't really hold as well when there's not, noodles separating out the layers.
then I can use that for my.
It looks horrible. My mom absolutely hates making it for like guests and friends and family friends, and like it's one of those things that my entire family loves. All 4 of us love it, but she refuses to cook it for other people because it really looks like dog food. I love you, Mom. But yeah, this is my payment for house sitting. So, yeah, I have to. I'm house sitting for them while they are visiting some family down south.
It's a Tails, that gets a basic Pokemon. Could go and get, say, an Yveltal as an attacker.
Yes, for example.
But
just
you wanted heads there.
yeah, exactly. Now, yeah, Daichi probably has to get rid of the stadium, use the minion for just reset, just draw into more cards. There is also the Stone Journal, which is also to be able to just take a easy knockout on Meloita, for example.
Yeah, that would work.
Daichi just does not want to give too many prize cards to the opponent while also keeping the Archeops.
Yep.
As we see, yeah, the collapsed stadium, the minion for Professor's research. The question now is that he did have a nice call in his hand. Whether he wants to, yeah, already get an attacker in play as well. Nespot would, yeah, thin out your deck, but then you only have 1 bench space left because of collapsed stadium. So it really depends on what Daichi's not thinking. What do I really want to do, and what is likely to happen now that I play the Professor's research. As we see him just discarding Stone Journal, also the Nespor, which is very interesting to me.
Well, I think one of the interesting things here, with the old version of the deck wasn't so much like this, but you're really relying on your single strike energy.
Yes.
Yveltal needs it, Stonejourner needs it, Tyranitar needs it, and you can recover it with your Urn of Vitality, but
Oh, there's only 2, yeah, there's only 2 bench spaces left because of the stadium, so you can't bench anything else. So, but you can just attack with the minion, right? If
you
there
can
is-
attack with, no, not
No,
with
wait, there is no.
Yeah, it's definitely no longer a secret.
There is no way
So-
to attack with the minion.
So you're forced into attacking with
Let's
Lugia
see.
here.
Let's see.
But I say, I don't think that's the end of the world, because those single strike energy, I've seen enough Lugia players lose because they don't have enough single strike energy. I do not mind this line of play here, where you kind of KO the Meloetta, you then get your big KO with your with your single strike energy onto a Mew, and then you can finish off a Genesect with a Lugia without the single strike energy, and then that part.
Pokemon centers are so cool. Like the shops at these events are so nuts. Oh, also fun story about her, Anna Prosser. I remember watching.
Yeah, exactly.
We were at
It's a little bit
NAIC, not this year,
I have to
but
play it, but yeah, it's
last
the old
year,
Champions League.
and she was clearly late to an entrance
I'm not the person sitting there playing with you.
for a champions interview.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm kind of
And she
control.
walked out on stage barefoot.
She was, like, thinking about
Clearly, the heels were a little
the minions, just
little tough, and now I just saw she was wearing sneakers in that clip. So maybe she learned that heels were not necessarily the answer for hosting a Pokemon event, because there is a lot of walking. I'm not critiquing. It was just really funny if you noticed it. So I think on stream they actually cropped her feet off, like they aimed the cameras up because they all realized what was happening. So it was funny. If you look back at that and let me know if you can find it. It was Championship Sunday, I think or not this year, but so 2022. But that's a long live stream to watch and look for that.
which means you cannot play bosses orders. So yeah, the V-Guard energy instead.
I'm also going to
Yeah, gives you the knowledge
post
that
the
if you
link
wanna take the knockout, he needs to have so many good cards. Also,
in the
collecting
Discord.
bench Jensen, yeah, looking pretty difficult for Caleb, but now at least he's able to use shooting strike system again.
Yeah, and he gets to have another view, so he's down to 2 Genesect. The Genesect are only drawing until 5, and there's a big difference between 2 drawing until you've got 5 and 3 drawing until you've got 6. So not exactly the state of date you probably wanted, but at least it is hers and Caleb's draw power now that Path to the Peak is off the field and Genesect is reactivated. Now we've got an Iono, and there is the power tablet in hand here, but of course we want Boss's Orders. We do. We've got Boss's Orders gets this, and we actually have a Lesser Sparkle in hand as well. So Caleb's actually pretty much got any play he wants available, assuming he can hit the double turbo energy. He could just bring the Liminian active, play the power tablet, and then go dig into that double turbo to get the 2 prizes. If that's the way he wants to go, that's on the board now.
Yeah, he has a lot of options available, but none of them seem too nice right now. I mean, it is game 3, and there's still, I think, enough time on the clock. So
Looking at the day 1 live streams though, the DCG live stream I think was almost like 3 hours longer than the VGC. So that time zone difference is definitely rough. But I actually stayed up for all 9 hours. Yeah, that was going to sleep at 5:30 a.m. this morning. That was really fun.
Didn't get the double turbo energy.
And there's a fire horn going off in my town.
Very thorough because, yeah, like we saw last game, you can always just use Primal Turbo to just retreat your Pokemon. That's
Last time that happened was
energy.
2 days ago, and 3 tornadoes hit central New York. Happy global warming and weather. Climate change is scary. So, yeah, definitely try to be environmentally friendly.
I kind of love this for Daichi at this stage because basically what you've got here is, look, I'm not 1-hit KOing, I'm 2-hit KOing, I don't care. I'm going to attack 3 times to win the game. I don't think you're going to it's going to be 3 KOs. I don't think you can take 3 KOs now before I've attacked 2 more times.
This is such a difficult situation for Caleb to maneuver, especially now.
Ooh,
because
he's playing the new choice belts.
Silver Templars, I think.
New choice belt art.
There is no stadium card in play anymore, so Daichi has the bench space he needs for either our Tempest dive, for either the Yveltal or Tyranitar.
Yeah.
And Daichi only needs 1 knockout onto you, and then you can even knock out Genesect or a MUV, because there was already the knockout taken on Yveltal.
And if there's no KO here, then things get very nice for Daichi because you can basically save your Lugia with all the energy on, take a KO with, your Tyranitar, maybe your Yveltal, and then your opponent's in an awkward situation. I like setting up an end of game where I've got 2 attackers, and whichever one my opponent doesn't KO, I win the game with the following turn. That's essentially where Daichi is potentially going here. If you get if that Lugia doesn't get KO'd, and it's not looking terribly likely, then next turn you set up a Tyranitar, case of, well, I've got Tyranitar and Lugia, whichever one you don't KO wins the game next turn. Might need a boss's orders, but that would basically be all Daichi actually needed. And there is another Luminion in the deck to potentially go and get it. So I'm loving this with Daichi at this stage. Caleb, I mean, we've got what, 1 V-Guard energy on
Think
Mew,
I should start charging up my laptop
Turbo. And we've already
because
seen power tablets hit
I should be able to also. I found the link to
310 this turn.
the pairings.
Either taking the very nice option just get your new back into the deck, get rid of all the damage that you can. But the big problem is it doesn't really deal a lot of damage. You can
So I can actually keep track of
negate kind of the effect of the V-Guard energy, but
how
because
some of my favorite players are doing.
So
Oh, they're doing the caster stuff.
that's 1070 damage.
But this is why VGC is a little bit easier to watch than the TCG because we are getting ready for round 2 to start like any second now.
Yes.
Any second now, round 2 is going to start for VGC. Meanwhile, TCG is still going, and this game's probably going to end in a tie.
I want to know what that came up with.
It seems like there is no Pokemon actually leaving the deck, so probably a head. It's actually interesting because usually you have like the good effect on heads and on tails usually does nothing. But on this card specifically, it really depends whether you want heads or tails.
It's so awkward. And but the two times he wants to get heads, he got tails. And now he desperately needs the tails and he goes and gets a head. That is a risk, I suppose, of playing capturing a rover. It's not ideal. Now, does he have a big darkness type attacker?
There's also the boss in hand, so you might just think about, well, I will take the boss now.
Love it.
And then the moment, because you have 2 Archeops in play, you just need anything. And if this Lugia
Where
gets knocked out,
is
gift energy activates, and you get a full new hand. So it's almost impossible for Caleb, I think, to maneuver this. But if anyone knows how to do it, it's him.
Caleb is a phenomenal player, and you know he's played Mew a lot. You know he's played against Lugia a lot. But at this stage, Meloette is kind of off the table. There's two Fusion Strike Energy at least that have gone. So Caleb could attack with a Meloette, and they'd only be doing like 140 odd damage. It wouldn't really be doing that much. And then he's not getting a KO with Lugia, so he's kind of got a KO attack with a Mew. But if he attacks with a Mew, then he just gets KO'd by a return to Rattata or an Yveltal. So you can kind of try and attack with Ice Cube and maybe can you quite KO the Archeops? But it's, I don't think you can. I think you're like over a tiny bit short. So it's like
There are 2 fusion energy cards in this good pile already.
yeah. So you're doing a maximum.
There we go.
Yeah, actually, you're not doing enough. I don't think.
We see a desperation play, attach energy, retreat, and now Caleb just hopes that Daichi doesn't have anything. I mean, maybe all of the attackers on the prize.
Okay, we need tails, David. It is a tails. Okay, that is going to be the game. We're going to search for a Tyranitar or an Yveltal. Either one will.
Okay, yep. So round 2 is posted.
The one option that Caleb has, we see Tyranitar.
How many tables are there?
We see the
There's
first Archeops.
55 tables
Single
of
strike energy.
masters.
There are 2 left, yeah.
There we go.
So there's 55 tables of masters right now. Let's see.
Tyranitar takes the KO, and Daichi takes a very good 2-1 win. Game 1.
Oh, and Lugia beat Mew. Alright. We're gonna switch audio again.
We did see some other water types with the teams, but it was mostly Pokemon that used more in a defensive role, right? That Solo Dandoza that we saw winning the North American International Championships on a couple of teams. Gastrodon still rearing its
Ooh, Alberto Lara
really to be
is
distributed
1-0.
time at the World
Triple
Championship.
Cross 1-0.
But yeah, I think it's pretty cool too. And speaking of the other
Neil Patel. I think I follow him on Twitter.
kind of like a
Joe Ugarte.
seeing where another way to kind of work around the things they
Oh, Joe Ugarte is playing the guy that just won on stream.
a little bit better. We saw in that first game, I don't think Rocky Helmet Water Main was something that was super high on most people's threat lists, but certainly a lot more punishing for that draft like Riku and lots of teams. I think
Paul Ruiz.
have a Rocky Helmet on somewhere. We're getting a little
I'd
bit
love
of
to see
the
Paul
biggest
Ruiz
guy,
win
but I
again.
think
Yeah, oh yeah. The Rocky Helmet is one of those items that until Urshifu's around, it's not the best value unless you're consistently getting hit multiple times. So being able to really
Yeah.
deal with multiple hits by putting back a considerable amount of damage makes a lot of sense. And it's now one of those items that I think in the open team sheet world, you know it's there, right? You know where it is, so you're not even playing that guessing game. But your opponent can still kind of trap you a little bit and just be able to say, you know what, I'm going to switch here, and you're going to have to take a bunch of damage in response. So I do really like it's a choice. I am intrigued by it on the Flutter main because Flutter main this year has had kind of a plethora of choice. Do you want booster energy? Do you want something that helps it out like the choice specs? Even arguably the focus sash at times as well, being able to give it another turn to move last 1,000 week shadow ball and to cause those problems. So it's really been a tough one, and I definitely like to see that adaptation, which is what we wanted coming into the World Championships, and even more adaptation and nuance as we approach day 2.
I just realized something.
Pretty cool too, right?
Thank you, Mom, for dinner.
I think that the
Always
item
say
meta
thank
game
you
is
for
a bit
free
more
food.
interesting than it's ever been,
Life
kind of
lessons.
because some of the items are crucial, right? Like safety goggles is another one. Amoongu's a little bit lower on the usage chart than we've seen it all year. But between that and a few other key Pokemon, it's one of those things you'd like to fit on your team all the time. You can, but it's difficult, right? Like most teams using a booster energy. Choice items have been more popular than ever. There's a bunch of Pokemon that kind of need a sort of weird utility item. Like, you even saw Metal Coat on Golden Go yesterday. Urshifu can use a lot of strange items. Focus Sash at once seems like it's better and worse than ever before, where there's even more Pokemon that kind of need it in this format, but also, it just doesn't work against stuff like Rapid Strike Urshifu. So it's been fun to see what players have come up with, I think, and the nuance of those teams, I think, are probably going to make the difference between, the team that wins the World Championships and the teams that come up just a little bit short, where those optimizations are going to be key.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see those adaptations just across the day, because there are so many decisions to be made, and I think coming into this, I like your point on Focus Sash, actually, because I'm one of those people that's like, Focus Sash must be on every single team, I must use it. But now I am seeing the argument where maybe there's just better items out there, and we are spoiled for choice for once in what is definitely one of the more creative formats we've had in Scarlet Violet. Like, this is the first time we've got this many Pokemon to deal with, so I'm excited to see, not only Pokemon, movesets, items, even down to the training could be big today.
Now, the training was big in that first round, right? Where, again, kind of one of the things that made that feel to me like it was, late World Championship sort of vibes was, how well some of those Pokemon were taking attacks. We saw the Invisible Focus Sash. Mark that one off on your bingo card for the Tornadus, and I think it wasn't just that. Right?
I should have
There's a lot
made
of
a
trading
bingo
back
card.
And forth, and it seemed like the Pokemon were optimized very well. Where you maybe don't need the Focus Sash if you can get in situations where your Pokemon are able to trade naturally. Instead, you can get the power from a different item. I thought that was really cool. And then kind of looking at interaction between those teams, right? Where that whole Tornado situation was a little uncommon. Where having the slower Tornadus is a pretty serious disadvantage because of the taunt, as we saw in both Game 2 and in Game 3. But there was some preparation around that, right? And that Tornadus also do Air Slash, which I wondered if was just going to be a meme, but does let you at least fight into the Bramble Gas a little bit, and that situation came up immediately in round 1.
Yeah, already some really exciting gameplay and some great tech choices, but we want to keep the ball rolling. We want to get some more fantastic players, and I can tell you, to be quite honest, that round 2 here on day 2 is going to be fantastic. So while we get our players ready, get them on stage, get them set up, we're going to throw it over to the guys in the lounge to keep on digging on a little bit more of what we can expect here in Yokohama.
Thank you very much, guys. I am joined by the wonderful Lee and Lou, and we are here to discuss day 2 of the World Championship. Guys, that first round, I don't think we could have picked a better first match to get things started, and I'm just thinking, what's going to win this tournament? We're going to come down to just 2 players at the end of the day, and I'm seeing a lot of Water Urshifu right now. You know what's pretty good against Water Urshifu? Might be your favorite Pokemon.
Well, Gastrodon, I think, there are a couple out there in day 2 at the moment. There are a bunch yesterday as well. I think with the amount of water types that are running around, you've mentioned, obviously, the Urshifu, but also Bascu Legion has been a Pokemon that I did pick at the beginning of yesterday, but I also think has gone above what I was expecting it to do. It's been really, really strong, and all these water types running around, I think, is a really great call for the World Championships.
Yeah, the water Urshifu with the Surgeon Strikes, just so strong, isn't it? I really like the adaptation from Eric's Fluttermane, though, and with the Trick Room there as well, it was just such a surprise, I think, and the way that he kind of used it in that game to set the Trick Room up on the Tailwind and then get that Ursaluna in it. It's like Ursaluna's dream at that point, really. It's set up, ready to go, and I just think, yeah, the adaptations that players are making to kind of counteract the Urshifu as well is really interesting, because obviously with the rocky helmet on that Fluttermane, it kind of really puts you off kind of going into the Fluttermane with that Surgeon Strikes in the first place. It kind of gives you that little bit of a security blanket almost in those situations. But I don't really see the usage of Urshifu going down.
So we're
at all.
looking
I think
for
it's just
2
gonna
or fewer
increase throughout the day,
losses
but
and no
the adaptations
ties.
that different players have and the
9
item
top
choices and things is really interesting
8.
to see. And it'll be, I have no idea at this point what is going to win, but we could put our money to say, Urshifu's probably going to be in one of those top 2 teams, I think.
I'm really hoping we see an
Okay,
Urshifu
there
versus
we go.
Gastrodon
That's what I
more.
wanted to
Not
say.
just for your sake, but for, I think it's just really interesting, right? One of the reasons why Gastrodon is such an intriguing Pokemon is because you use it just to really give Urshifu so much trouble. We saw Gastrodon win, of course, the World Championships last year, and it was basically used as an answer.
So Swiss
into
round
all
2
the
is supposed to
Kyogres
be
that
at
existed, being able to soak
10:15.
up those very powerful water type attacks. And Gastrodon is a multi-time world champion. It's won so many different tournaments. and
10:15
I think that
a.m.,
dynamic's really interesting because we
which
were
is
looking at the
what
usage
time?
statistics earlier. Yesterday, Fluttermane was number 1, Iron Hands was number 2, and today it looks like Water Urshifu and Iron Hands actually tied at that number 2 spot. And so it already looked really good yesterday. It looks like it might even be better today. So I'm curious, how do you guys think there are any Pokemon relative to yesterday that you think might have underperformed, or you expect to maybe overperform today? Any thoughts from how the meta from yesterday shakes up compared to today?
For me, I don't know. I was expecting to see a little bit more from Heatran.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Heatran, I think everyone was talking about it being this amazing Pokemon with access now to Terra Grass and giving it all this extra flexibility and defensive capability that it already had, but, you know, let's slap another 10 times on that. And it felt a little underwhelming. I thought I would see a lot more Saltburst variants, so I saw a bunch of Life Orb, particularly walking around as well, and a few maybe Citrus Berry variants.
Something
but
happened
I think the Assault Vest one was
because
expecting to see,
it
and
was
I
supposed to
haven't
start
seen it.
2 minutes ago.
Like, Heatran isn't broken in Regulation
So
G,
they're
and I think we were
13
expecting-
hours ahead of us?
I think I was surprised we didn't really see more.
Good to know.
Like, and
13
this
hours
isn't
ahead of
because we're
us.
on the Gastrodon hype train or anything, but I honestly feel like I expected more Gastrodon because Basket Legion definitely a big threat coming into this format. I think obviously Water Urshifu as well, and Gastrodon just deals with it. It puts a thorn in your opponent's side straight away.
Yeah, I'm really surprised we haven't seen more Gastrodons on stream.
Unless you're running like Terra Grass Urshifu with Terra Blast, you don't really have.
Oh, also Paul Ruiz or Shiliang Tang, those are the 2 that I'd love to win, because watching that last match of day 1 on stream, Tailwind Rock Slide shenanigans, so much fun, so many flinches, so hilarious to watch.
Eric showed how good Trick Room can be in a format kind of full of Tailwind as well, so it feels like a nice Pokemon to bring in those situations as well. I just feel like it's almost there, but we haven't really seen it yet.
Totally. I'm glad you guys brought those up because, of course, we made some caster predictions before the tournament where we predicted the Pokemon that we expect to see. So let's quickly take a look at that. And I'm curious how you guys think you're doing relative to the caster predictions. I think for me, I knew Flutter and Hands. I expected them to be number 1 and number 2 going into the tournament. So not super surprised there. I figured Urshifu would be good. I didn't realize it would be this good. I feel like it's looked so dominant in every game. I still feel decent about the Landers prediction. My main reason for picking Landers was expecting the Japanese players to really index on it. It looked really good in that final round.
This is who I thought
as well. There's so many different ways you can run it.
it would be.
For example, Assault Vest, Choice Scarf, Choice Band. So many
Snowy and Arcanine. I bet that's going to be in the finals tomorrow.
Interesting. Shampoo is something I've expected to see more of on these Tornadus teams, but it doesn't seem like it's had as much of an impact. But I feel like it has the potential to still become a world champion winning Pokemon. So that's one Pokemon that I have my eye out on. And yeah, Chiyu, I think out of these 4, I probably feel the least confident about. But definitely still feeling okay.
No
about
idea
them.
where
I'm
to
curious
put
how you
mine.
guys feel.
I mean, there's no Chiyu on these cast predictions.
Which is
at all,
wild. Yeah, now
actually,
I'm looking at it, I'm
right?
like, wow, like,
Yeah.
maybe we were like, it's so obvious, like, there's nothing to do it.
But Chiyu and Urshifu, I think, is the big combination that's been really, really strong. I think, Aaron, you had very solid choices with Fluttermane and Iron Hands. But you know what can also be in Iron Hands? Is a Ghost Gastrodon. Okay? Because Ghost Terra Gastrodon, you can't hit it for electric. Well, you can before it terras, okay? But then when you terra into Ghost, you don't have to worry about any of those fake outs or any, close combats, anything like that. A Gastrodon, I think, is really, really strong. Basket Legion's definitely been the one that I thought was maybe the spicy pick coming in, and it's been really, really strong. I'm a little sad for Dondozo. It was definitely, a Pokemon that has had ups and downs.
The other one that surprises me is no Ting Lu anywhere. I know like Ting Lu has a horrible Urshifu matchup, but
The one that's really interesting to me is the Golden Go.
Yeah.
I think it's come back really, really strong. Lots of nice flexibility with Terra types as well, and lots of versatility when you're running choice dark, choice specs. We've seen, Life Orb, and there's a lot of nasty pot sets running around as well. So I think Golden Go is definitely a really good choice by these Rose, Scott, and yourself, Debbie.
Yeah, I really like Goldingo.
Asher, how you doing, bud?
I think it really suits the Goldingo with
I
the
think my
array of
puppy
different
is
speed control options that
enjoying
we've got
life.
now, and
Yeah?
I think Goldingo really thrives.
You want me to grab your
on the
bed?
Speed control options that you have to kind of support it, especially things like tornadoes with the tailwind.
This floor
and that
used to
position
not
where,
have
you know,
very
we've
nice
seen Emilio, I
carpeting.
think he was running choice
So
specs
ever
in,
since
so
the
you
carpet
can-
got
you can
installed,
almost get the
Asher has
tailwind up
been
and start firing
loving
off
it.
those make it rain automatically, and that's a great position for Goldingo to be in. And I think as well, I had Urshifu on there, but it's a single strike. I kind of want to change it now to the rapid strike. They look the same, right? So
In all fairness, I think both are really good,
Yeah.
and I
I'm
wonder
really
if
surprised
our
that
predictions,
uh,
round 7 of Swiss
the
yesterday,
computer's
we had
living so far.
We had the Hisu and Arcanine, and man, did they look
It
good.
is getting a
Right,
little
that was
toasty
a
up here.
choice
How's the
fantastic
temperature?
move, and we also had Hisu and Arcanine. That was the
Computer's
first
okay.
come and said, what's really interesting
It's
to me is
it's
kind of
keeping
how
it together.
these Tailwind teams look. Like Tornadus is obviously everywhere, but the pieces that are surrounding it are actually maybe not what I would have fully expected going into this tournament. I think there was a lot of hype around this like Reggie Drago, plus Rillaboom, plus Golden Go Tornadus, and obviously some of the pieces are
I'm gonna
there,
see if
but
I can
it's really
add
interesting to see kind of the differences between all
audio
of these different
input
Tornadus teams. And it
capture.
feels like Tornadus right now, these comps
See.
are kind of the front runners to win, given how many elite players are picking them right now.
Yeah, Tornadus has definitely, I think, been a hot favourite coming in. We've seen Tailwind as well on Roaring Moon yesterday as well. I wasn't expecting to see that in the tournament. But I think you're right, speed control's been really, really critical. And for me, it's been less about Tailwind, but more about Icy Wind. I've seen that a lot coming through from a variety of different Pokemon, just getting not only that little bit of chip damage on critical focus dashes, but also getting that one speed drop, and it's forcing players to make a lot of switches. But I think you're right, Tailwind in day 2, I think is going to be a force to be reckoned with, for sure.
yeah, definitely. I just want to pick up on the Icy Wind because I can't remember which stream game yesterday, but the Fluttermane running Icy Wind, and I just think it's such a good tech on something
One
like Fluttermane that has a natural speed
second.
as well to kind of just really hinder your opponent and put something supporting the Fluttermane in a really nice position going into that next turn, or that turn. Yeah, I was surprised we've not seen more Thunderous as well. I really
Alright,
expected
I wanna
Thunderous
see
to
if
be
I can-
something that players are picking up on. Whether or not we see Thunderous appear a little bit more the rest of the day or the weekend, be yet to be seen. But I think Thunder Wave is something that we've seen in the past be used. It's not quite as effective as it was in previous formats, but it's still a nice option that Thunderous has taunt as well, and it does have that kind of type advantage as well against Tornadus. So kind of all the Tornadus players don't really want to be facing down against a Thunderous. So I would have expected to see more of that, but whether or not we do, yet to see.
Well, let me tell you, I could never see a Thunderous for the rest of my life ever again.
Yeah, I'm
I'd be
sorry to
very,
bring
very
that up,
happy.
Aaron.
We'll see if Thunderous does make an appearance. I actually think Thunderous and Zapdos are two Pokemon I had my eye out on going into this tournament specifically because of how they can match up against Tornadus, Zapdos being naturally set up Tailwind as well. So we'll have to see how players counter these top Tailwind compositions, but that's going to be it for us here. Let's throw it back to the casters. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us.
I'm not sure I appreciate stray comments about my Thunderous pick. It fit the theme and I'm pretty happy with it. So maybe it'll crop up later and make me feel better. Of course, we are getting ready for round number 2 here in Yokohama. And I think overall, I'm excited for what we've got coming up.
Absolutely. We're going to see the best players from 2 different regions that we don't get to see a whole lot on stream. The top player from LATAM taking on the top player from Oceania.
Yeah, that's the 2, I guess, smaller regions. They send less players, I guess, but the players are no slouches at all, especially when you're number 1 in your region. You've got to be feeling pretty good about your chances as you approach the World Championships. You skip day 1, you come to day 2 as the best in your area, and you've kind of got a bit of a point to prove. You've already proved plenty, and it sets you up in good stead to try and take down the tournament.
Yeah, I think, especially Oceania, I think they're always kind of looking for a little respect on this stage where we don't get quite as much attention as everyone else does because there's a little fewer events in that region. I think in part because of that, I think Gabriel Gata, the top player from LATAM, going to have exactly double the championship points that his opponent does, even though they're both number 1 in their regions. We definitely didn't both individually check on our calculators to make sure that we could multiply numbers by 2 and avoid making a critical math error on stream.
Yeah, do you know your 2x table up to 598?
I mean, I thought I did, but I really wanted to make sure. You know, I gotta save the hilarious missteps for later in the tournament if I can afford to.
Oh, thank you. When I'm working with you again, that's going to be a lot of fun to go through. But no, 598 championship points leading your region is nothing to be sniffed at. That is a serious number of points. That is essentially, you know, multiple worlds invites with the bar that was set for Oceania. But Gabriel Agati, what a season he's been having, putting up great performances at ICs. Again, ends him up on double at 1,196. And I think that just shows, you know, just how big and how good he's been in his region, being able to make those runs at ICs. He's still missing, I think, the one thing he wants is one of those huge wins. To really kind of get back into things and show that he is, you know, not just the best in Latin America, which, you know, you can hotly debate that one. He was over 400 points ahead of number 2 in Latin America, which is quite a jump, and I think his big IC performance definitely helps those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great in that tournament. He always seems to, right? Where I think, gosh, I can't even remember how long it's been since he wasn't one of the top players to look at every time we have an international tournament. I think the Latin America in general, the top players in that group, a handful of them seem like they've been factors in every big tournament for a long time now, and I think they've really caused players all across the world to change the way they look at Latin America as a region, right? Where these are really scary players. I think they tend to almost always, as a group, have really interesting takes in the metagame. You know, where they all, it's not like a situation you see in some of the other regions where they're all running the same teams or anything, but I think to me what they all have in common is just that they all have a perspective in the metagame. You know, they're never just using, you know, the same group of 6 that you see all over the field, and it makes it really difficult to play against.
I mean, when you're prepping for a tournament and you know that Latin America are going to be there, they're going to be showing up, you're obviously trying to figure out what each region is trending towards. It really is a case of sleep with one eye open, make sure you know what is going on in that region, because if you get paired up against one of them and you just ignored what they're bringing, that could be an auto loss, an exceptionally tough matchup, and then you're putting yourself down a step. So I like the way that now, I think a lot of people have woken up and started seeing, obviously,
I like anime.
some of these top players come to the fore
There we go.
over again.
Alright,
A little bit
so
more
I want to go
coming out when it comes
to...
comparing and
So what I'm trying to do right now is figure out how to
I think
get
it's
the
really
streaming
difficult,
audio
opponents to prepare
right
against,
into
where, you know, I think,
OBS,
because there isn't, like,
because
you know,
I'm
huge
starting
group
to
using
get a
similar
little
Pokemon,
toasty up
you
here
kinda
without
just
the
have to roll with
AC
it and
on.
figure it out once you get to the tournament, right?
So,
you know,
if I
there's a
start...
number of archetypes I think players are really prepared for. Aaron kind of mentioned the whole Reggie Dragoon
Oh.
into, but I think what's fun with these guys is that it's always stuff that, you know, we're not quite expecting, and I think it used to be, you know, years and years ago, like, oh, you know, that's just, I mean, that's not a real team, we don't have to worry about that, and then, you know, we get to the top cut phase, like, oh, all those guys are still in the tournament, huh? Guess we should have taken that a little bit more seriously.
Oh, that is a serious point of prep, because you cannot ignore
Audio.
taking World Championships like a whole region. That's absolutely crazy to be able to say,
Voices.
well, as long as I don't play anyone from Latin America, I'll be fine. It's like if you get caught with 2-3 matchups against a certain archetype or, you know, team that one region is trending towards, that is an early exit for you from a tournament. That is when it's the final of the season, not what you want to be seeing. So I think that's a really tough one. I do want to focus on Oceania as well. They had a very different season to us, and they played their events, their regionals, and of course their international championship a lot earlier. Their international championship was back in February when we were in Regulation B, I believe, and their regionals were very close behind, so they didn't have the same kind of growth and build. I mean, we do have to call out as well, but we weren't ready for the video game championships when Latin America had theirs, so they definitely took a little bit of a breather as well, and that really does show, you know, that these players are at the top for whatever they got to play. They deserve to be considered the best player in the region.
Yeah, I mean, impressive to both of them. You know, they picked up that first win in round 1. They'll be 1-0 against each other here, and yeah, I'm excited to see what they bring because of that, right? I think some of the other players we've gotten to see more of over the course of the season, so we kind of have a pretty good idea the sort of strategies that they tend to trend toward. I'm not as sure about these two. I think Alistair in particular, we haven't seen on stream in quite a long time, so I'm excited to see what he brings. I think that it'll be an interesting match to watch. I think probably for all the players in the field, you know, they're hoping they can finish up their round in 2 games.
Ooh, Andrew Mahone. He's in.
A little bit about players from you know, the regions we don't get to broadcast as much because I think
So
there's
aim
players
with
that are very
Alex
likely to
Szymanski,
compete
Ian
in the
Robb,
factors as we start,
Natalie
playing
Miller.
final rounds of Swiss.
Well,
Those are
while
some
we
great
talk about
names.
These two players, just focusing on them, there are more rounds out out in the field that we would like to make sure people are aware that are going on. These names matching up.
Gabriel Agati is who we're watching. Okay.
That I've seen so far this weekend. We've told you what we're going to be focusing on. But Shuyang Tang versus Shohei Kimura, sure to be a great one. Alex Gomez-Berner versus Chisok Lee. That's going to be a good one. Aurelien Sula versus Maurice Uteg. Aurelien leading the charge from France this year. And Maurice, you know, one of those new names, taking down a regional and advancing through day 1 as well. So this is Europe day 2 versus Europe day 1. Joseph Ugarte versus Eric Rios. These are names that both trainers, you know, want to see on top. Both fans, for both of them, really backing them to do well and go deep in this tournament. And to be matched up this early, I mean, this is a matchup I could see in top 4. I don't think I'm a little bit too early to say that. Like, that's where I'd expect to see those kind of players. And then, of course, Carl Linninghouse versus Melvin Kay. So a player from one of the smaller regions in Melbourne as well, being able to go up against one of North America's best. It truly is an international tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Melvin's another really interesting player to watch, right? It just seems like he winds up in top 10 every year like clockwork. So a player that I don't think anyone wants to be paired with. And yeah, poor Eric Rios, right? Like, what a couple of...
I might have just broke my computer a little bit. Let's see. Oh no, my internet's just pooping. Let's do this. There we go.
I think we start getting
We're back.
here. One of the things I'm most excited for is that we do see both of these players having a unique take on their teams. You know, we were kind of hoping in day 1, right? We were seeing groupings of the most popular Pokemon. We were sort of missing like that special touch. You know, what was going to make these teams different from everyone else? And I think both these sides have Pokemon that might make that difference.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before we even got into this round. The only water type available was Urshifu Rapid Strike. Turns out you lied to me, Scott, and I can see some other water types there.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned before, if you're not going to go with Urshifu as an offensive water type Pokemon, then you kind of get forced into a defensive water type Pokemon instead. And we have the Gyarados at one side of the field, which we saw little yesterday. It seemed like it was struggling, whereas like mostly that Wolf Glick group of players who brought the Gyarados in, none of them were able to make it onto day 2. On the other side, we do see that Solo Dondozo. We didn't really see too much of it all yesterday, but quite a few players opting to bring it today. And I think it's just a sign of the field, right, where strangely, it's actually the day 2 players who seem like they're taking a few more risks compared to the day 1, where I think many of the team choices were a little bit more conservative.
Maybe this is a telling sign of the amount of Regulation B events that Oceania had to play, but they're still really big on the Dondozo. Like, hey, in Regulation C we learned there was other ones, and maybe we need to pivot around that one. But both teams certainly bringing something a little bit different. I think the matchup's going to be great. It's nice to get a little break from the Urshifu as well. But we're going to head on into the match, and Dondozo taking the field in the lead for Alistair, alongside an Iron Hands for Gabriel as well. This time ahead up with the Chi-Yu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Aaron's going to be happy to see that one. I was a little worried about the prediction. Here it is. We found it, buddy. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. You know, the Chi-Yu certainly threatening the most damage in the field, but also not loving the opponents on the opposite side. Both very sturdy Pokemon who can potentially safely take one of these attacks. And then, you know, Dondozo, I think it's great to see. You know, we were kind of making fun of it over the course of the season, just could never seem to win the big one, especially in North America. But we did just see the Solo Dondozo win the North America International Championship. I think everyone's taking this Pokemon a little more seriously now, even if it doesn't have its buddy Tatsugiri to help it out.
It's certainly an interesting one, because it's now just taking up one slot. There is going to be the fake out there from the Iron Hands of Alistair's side that is heading into the opposing Iron Hands. A Dark Pulse from the Chi-Yu goes straight towards that Dondozo, brings it below half, but of course the Citrus Berry activating, making it nice and healthy. And oh yes, Dondozo with the yawn. I can imagine this is going to start causing some interesting problems.
And Dondozo doing what it does best there, kind of slowing the game down, not doing too much damage, and start forcing those switches, right? Yawn, if you're not familiar with it, after the second turn, if you don't switch out of battle, the Pokemon will fall asleep. So kind of just forcing these rotations. Unfortunately, I think this is a team that's very good at rotating, right? See both the Mungus and Gyarados.
I'm going to test out, see if I did this correctly.
Also likes going in and out.
Give me a few.
Two Pokemon typically known for using physical attacks, so two great options. It is the Mungus who will be joining battle.
Feels like a very safe switch, nothing really threatening it immediately, but the Dondozo switching out itself. So both trainers trying to get a little bit of a pivot. It's going to be Iron Hands on both sides, but an Amoonguss coming in for Alistair. That's the Intimidate that we were maybe expecting the Gyarados, but we got one instead from the side of the Landorus. The Wild Charge will head towards that Amoonguss. That is going to be quite nice. Maybe trying to catch the Gyarados on the way in. There's that Rocky Helmet you were talking about, as he is taking a little bit of damage for its trouble. And even worse...
All right, I did it right. Hey, learn something new every day. Close that now. I'm gonna turn on the AC, which means I'm gonna have this running, and you'll be able to hear the actual commentary for a little bit. But I'm sweating, so I gotta turn on the AC, and that fan's just a little too loud. So I'll be here, but you won't hear me.
The Oblivious on the Soul Dondozo will keep it nice and safe, not worrying about the Unaware. So this is going to be the Spore from Amoonguss, kind of left free to do it. Feels pretty good as the Dondozo goes right to sleep on the way in. And of course, that Gyarados was not affected by the Landorus and its Stomping Tantrum. So a really good turn there, I think, for Gabriel.
Yeah, looking like Ray Rizzo. Sneasler out here just can't hit any attacks, but Gabriel's found himself in really good positioning now. Gets the Spore off, not a whole lot that Alistair's going to be able to do in that other slot either. You have an intimidated Landorus, Amoonguss not being threatened at all, potentially could Spore that other slot, and even though there's not like a lot of offensive pressure coming out from this fearsome duo of support Pokemon on Gabriel's side of the field, you're never going to be too upset when you have one sleeping Pokemon and the threat of another.
You know what I think is really cool? Spore goes and puts him to sleep in one turn, Yawn takes two, and I think that's the big advantage. The Landorus will keep itself safe from the incoming Waterfall here with a simple Protect. The Amoonguss is kind of left to try and do something as the Dondozo does continue to sleep. And Amoonguss, yeah, following up with a Spore, maybe trying to catch a switch on that slot from Alistair, maybe trying to catch something that could take the Waterfall better on the way in, but no dice. So Alistair just getting one step closer to Dondozo waking up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great turn on Alistair's side in the sense you get to burn the turn of sleep, but, I mean, still, even if Dondozo wakes up, I mean, the Yawn is a problem, right? You don't want your Pokemon to be put to sleep, but not really threatening any damage. Gyarados is going to resist all of its attacks. Amoonguss is going to resist the more important one, and also, has that Rocky Helmet. So neither side really in a position where they can generate a whole lot of offense yet.
It's all about position in this early state of the game. Landorus will fire off the Rock Slide, will miss the Gyarados and catch the Amoonguss, not the preferred target there, as Gyarados fires right back with the Waterfall. The Landorus brought down to about 25% of its health. Dondozo remains asleep, so not able to get an impact in this game. As Amoonguss fires off a Leaf Storm into the Dondozo, brings it exceptionally low, gives up its special attack for its troubles, but that is a very, very vulnerable Dondozo now.
That's a ton of damage on a very sturdy Pokemon. And we see another one of those little adaptations I was talking about. We're kind of looking for players to have a few clever tricks to get ahead of the metagame, maybe that we weren't seeing yesterday. Leaf Storm and Amoonguss is an adaptation I heard a lot of chatter about before the tournament. Critical in a few situations, especially because there's some abilities in this format where it just ignores the special attack drops, even though we won't be seeing any in this match.
Yeah, well, the Amoonguss has done a good amount of its job and leaves the field to reset its very valuable special attack for later for another big Leaf Storm. Iron Hands takes its place. The Protect comes through from the side of the Landorus, doesn't want to get felled by a follow-up Waterfall here, as the Dondozo does take the Waterfall in its stead and is easily dropped. So on these big bulky water types that Alistair probably relies on for a little bit of switching, and that pressure from Yawn is now gone. We do get to see his fourth and final Pokemon. It is going to be the Fluttermane, but there's still four for Gabriel, and I think honestly he's been playing this one really, really well.
Yeah, Fluttermane, such a powerful Pokemon, on 271% of teams, but, it's threatening not enough damage, right? It's not going to one-shot either of these Pokemon, most likely in the situation. That Landorus has been intimidated, so it's not going to dish out a ton of damage the other way either. You know, maybe you could try to get a double target out of his Iron Hands, but to just switch into battle, it could potentially be threatening, I assume, a fake out of its own.
It's going to be the switch out for the Landorus, though, so being able to save that Intimidate for later would be nice to land that on both of the Pokemon on Gabriel's side of the field, as his own Iron Hands takes the stage. The Gyarados, the Intimidate on Gabriel's side, leaves the field trying to land a better Intimidate later as well, as the Amoonguss comes back in at full health and full special attack. Fluttermane will protect itself this turn, so this is going to be what we can only describe as a slow one. Heavy Slam goes into that protect from the Iron Hands, and we're right back to the same kind of position where we're just trying to find an opening. Both trainers needing that one turn to be able to push on.
Yeah, I love this pairing of Pokemon Gabriel has had here. It doesn't go for the fake out there, although it's just as ineffective as if he had. But it's nice to have these two out together, right? Where threatening either a Heavy Slam or a Spore into that Fluttermane spot, so something bad likely to happen. But the substitute will block any potential Spore, so a great adaptation on Alistair's side to help deal with this Amoonguss.
Yep, the Iron Hands will flinch. The Amoonguss Spore will head into the Iron Hands, so that is at least a good bit of targeting there, but that's just a free substitute for the Fluttermane. I think when you're down a Pokemon, you need that extra bit of wiggle room. Giving up 25% of your health seems like a decent trade for that one in my book, and now this Fluttermane feels in a much better position.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important here, where Fluttermane is going to have to do a lot of work in this matchup, where there's now a sleeping Pokemon next to it. The Landorus has been significantly weakened. You've got to do something to try to get going here. There's been almost no damage dealt to Gabriel's side of the field because this Amoonguss is healing up the Regenerator ability. We're going to have to see a lot from Fluttermane if Alistair wants to win this first game.
It's going to be a long stretch, and now the Iron Hands is going to be the first Pokemon terastallizing in this set. Both trainers holding on to find the most opportune moment to use that. Is going to be Gabriel going with it first, making sure he's the water type now, as Fluttermane keeps up this defensive act, throwing out the protect, trying to see what may be coming that way. Got to imagine there's some potential large damage in its direction. That is going to be the Iron Hands remaining asleep, so no shock there in this turn, as the Iron Hands on Gabriel's side will Drain Punch it for quite a significant amount. Feeling pretty good about that one, and making its way all the way back to full health. The Amoonguss will follow it up with the Leaf Storm, but that's not going to be very effective in this case. It will drop its special attack and will not get the knockout on the opposing Iron Hands. Definitely in range, though, for an easy knockout with a follow-up Drain Punch.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? I mean, probably a little more damage they're used to seeing from these two Pokemon onto an Iron Hand. But with the critical hit and this more offensive Amoonguss, I kind of like it, right? Where, you know, it's not like it could do anything else in this turn. You know, Spore wouldn't be able to be effective on either Pokemon. So, hey, you know, this offensive Amoonguss is looking pretty good in this match.
I'm feeling it. I think it could be one of those nice adaptations. I mean, thinking about it, this is definitely a solid answer to something like Urshifu, right? That would take a lot of damage from the Rocky Helmet, and then, of course, just get easily knocked out by a response Leaf Storm. But there's no Urshifu in this game. There is a Terra Fairy Fluttermane, though, as it terastallizes, then goes back behind its sub, only to pop out moments later with a Dazzling Gleam. So just trying to get some damage down. You said it had a lot of work to do, and if that's the damage it's putting down, Scott, it is going to take a lot of turns to get there. Iron Hands remains asleep for Alistair, and the Iron Hands Heavy Slam will break that substitute. So making sure that that's a little more vulnerable. What the Amoonguss gets up to, I think, would be really, really important here for setting the tone of the end of this game.
Yeah, we see the Spore coming down to the Fluttermane, going to put that to sleep as well, and that is just terrible for Alistair.
Yeah, making sure that that Spore hit was big. Being able to catch it out of its substitute, it's not able to throw another one up, at least this turn, because it's asleep, and you've got to imagine that that Iron Hands is feeling pretty good about its opportunity to Heavy Slam. It will be the switch. I think the Amoonguss pivot and the Gyarados swap in and out feels really good. This is about to be an even better turn for Gabriel. The Landorus comes in. Okay, you're going to get the Intimidate down onto the Iron Hands. Okay, well, the Iron Hands is still doing a huge amount of damage as its attack goes down, but Amoonguss leaves the field. Gyarados will take its place and get an Intimidate down onto that Landorus, trying to keep it in check a little bit more, and of course, not be vulnerable to Stomping Tantrum as well. So certainly limiting options here. There is going to be that turn of sleep for the Fluttermane. Not able to do anything on this turn, and Iron Hands gets the Heavy Slam in there. Easy knockout. Intimidate isn't going to slow that one down, and it's going to be 2-4 in Gabriel's favor.
Yeah, just an excellently played game so far by Gabriel, making it look easy in this round.
It really has. This is going to be the reveal of the Iron Hands once more from the side of Alistair. It is still asleep, so it's definitely in a sticky situation, but I really don't see a world where these two low health Pokemon for Alistair are able to fire back and win him this game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of forgot about the Chiyu, right? He just showed up at the beginning of the game, pieced out, let his friends handle things, and that is a decisive victory in that first game of the set.
Landed a Dark Pulse. I don't know what else you want. It did a little bit and then left. It's a pretty fair trade for a Chiyu, and Gabriel just showing how good he is with these teams that rely on switching, rely on board position. I think, honestly, there was a couple of slow turns in that game where it could have gone either way, but I really like the way Gabriel played it and was able to bounce out and make sure he always had the upper hand.
Yeah, I thought it was just a perfectly played game. You know, he's showing why he has all those championship points, why he's the top player, in a very hotly contested region. And yeah, I think Alistair's really going to go back to the drawing board here.
We can take a look at the key moment in that match as well, being able to really understand where this game took a turn with our replay here. It starts right at the top. They're both getting ready for it, but there's the Spore on to the Dondozo. That slowed that one down. There was a nice sub. I think this was like the beginning of the fight back, trying to be able to get through this one, but this Terra Water, Terra Fairy came through, and at the end of the day, the Heavy Slam was able to connect, because once that Fluttermane was asleep, it felt like it was really comfortably in the hands of Gabriel Agati.
Yeah, I thought one thing that he did perfectly in that game was just he never got greedy, right? He took what was available to him. He didn't go crazy trying to over-target the Fluttermane when it was sort of like the last real threat on the opposing team. He waited for the appropriate time where he break the substitute, get the Spore down,
Alright,
not do anything
now
too crazy.
the
Just a smart,
AC
well-played
is cooled
game.
off
And
the
I think
room
that
a
if
good
you're,
bit.
Alistair's on the field,
I'll just
we'll
start
go into game
rotating
two. You gotta
between the
change
two
things up, and I
audios
think, maybe
whenever
you
the
could somehow
AC comes on.
avoid,
But
getting control
yeah,
like
that
but I think you made a
the
key point
timing
in
of
game.
that heavy
Spore much
slam
quicker
into the
than
substitute
disabling teams.
into
You
the
just have
Spore
a bunch of Pokemon on the field who aren't really
was
exhibiting any
awesome.
offensive pressure.
That
That's where
the
Pokemon
only thing
thrives.
that
It is great there.
I would have been
I think
interested
that
to
Alistair
see,
has
I don't
to
know
find
if
a
it
way
would
to
have been
speed this up a
better
little
or
bit,
worse,
because I don't think he's
was
going to win
sporing
this slower game.
into
They just keep fighting for the same
the
type of
Iron
points.
Hand
I wasn't particularly impressed with the
slot,
Dondozo, to be honest.
because it
nice
was
to see
either
something
going
a
to
little bit
wake up
different, but it didn't feel like
or
it applied
swap
much pressure
that
anywhere on
last
the board.
turn.
It did just
So
kinda
I
get
think
worn
that
down.
could have been
Took a lot of damage
interesting.
from that Leaf Storm as well. So there's the adaptation. We want to go fast. We've got a Tornadus on the field.
Let's see.
Iron Hands and
Let's see
Amoonguss,
what happens.
Iron Hands and Tornadus. So the Iron Hands big for both of these trainers has consistently been in the lead and just consistently trying to get that board position.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the adjustment a little bit here. I mean, you know, certainly Tornadus versus Amoonguss is a positive type matchup at least. But I hope it's just an indication that
Does the Tornadus have taunt?
I think he has to, and getting some more damage down early, something like the Bleak Wind Storm, maybe the Tailwind to help out as well, could be really, really big. Just able to kind of speed up the game and try and play this one better. There's going to be a fake out between the Iron Hands, but it's Alistair's going first. Tornadus landing that vital taunt onto the Amoonguss, so Amoonguss very limited in what it can try and do right now. Iron Hands flinches, and then Amoonguss can't Spore, so this is a much
I feel like
better
you
start
had to
for
see that
Alistair.
taunt
He's won the
coming.
speed matchup in the
Unless he
fake out,
missed it on
and
the
he's got that
sheet.
Amoonguss in a really sticky situation.
Yeah, the taunt's a big deal here too, right? Where sort of limits the potential bad options. Tornadus very likely to switch out of battle now with the threat of the Wild Charge in, but Amoonguss, you know, despite having that Leaf Storm, it's not like it's not an offensive Pokemon, right? It's just a little more offensive of a twist on a defensive Pokemon. You don't want to be slugging it out with Leaf Storms for too long. Sort of a strange spot now for Gabriel. Well, he's the one who probably doesn't really want either of these Pokemon on the field right now.
Yeah, this is a tough one as well. I think both, once again, it happened in game number 1 as well. Both
This
these
is
trainers want their Iron
slanderous.
Hands
This
to
is-
land a big attack into a premium target, and it's all about calling
What about,
that
like,
switch.
Terra
There's
Blast
gonna be
Iron
intimidating
Hands?
from the
Terra
Landorus
Water,
onto the
Terra
Iron Hands on
Blast.
Gabriel's side, so that's going to be a problem. Wild Charge into the Amoonguss, expecting it to leave, but it's not. It's staying the course, and he was waiting once
Ooh,
again
nice Rocky
for that
helmet
Gyarados to
and
come, but it
recoil
wasn't available to
stacking.
him. It's the same game, turn 2 from game number 1. Apart from this, the Amoonguss does go for the Pollen Puff this time, healing up that little bit of damage on the Iron Hand. So very, very similar indeed. But, you know, Wild Charge is not into premium targets.
Yeah. One of the fun quirks of Pollen Puff is that even though it's kind of effectively a supportive move, it is an attack, so you can use even though you're taunted there. Clever move there not to just make the obvious switch. We'll have to see if this time Alistair can call the Gyarados switch in.
Well, there's the Gyarados with its Intimidate, getting that down onto 2 premium targets in the combination of Landorus and Iron Hands. Landorus has gone for it again, stomping Tantrum into the flying
Wild
type.
Charge.
That one doesn't work.
Oh!
Covered the slot a lot better this time. Gyarados gets caught by the
That's
Wild Charge and it's felt
huge.
as soon as it came into the field.
a great pin there with 2 different moves. Would have been super effective on either Pokemon, depending on the switch was made or not.
Yeah, well, the Amoonguss fires back with the Leaf Storm. It does take a good chunk off the Landorus, but doesn't feel as impactful as it did against that Dondozo. That said, the taunt is now over, so Amoonguss is back to full power. All of its moves are available for it to
Is that
play with,
Specs?
including
I think that was
ever-present
Specs.
Spore. Chi-Yu being asked to do a little bit more work in this game as it switches in and lowers the special defense of everything with its Beads of Ruin. Certainly going to help out against something like that Iron Hands, which is relying on its Assault Vest to be able to cause some problems.
I think another key thing to keep in mind here is the matchup between this Amoonguss and the Landorus. We didn't see the interaction that first game when all those Pokemon are falling asleep, but that Landorus is holding the safety goggles item, so it will be a bit of a problem for this Amoonguss, even though it's not exactly threatening a one-hit knockout or anything.
One of the 22 items that you can give to Landorus in this meta game and make sure it's still a very good Pokemon. So the Amoonguss being asked to do a lot. It's going to try and slow that down. Landorus will buy itself a little bit of time though with the Protect here. Wants to make sure that it can maybe see what's coming out from the side of Gabrielle. It is going to be the Rage Powder now available since he shook off the Taunt. Chi-Yu will Heat Wave, so it's not going to
I thought he clicked Dark Pulse.
It's going to try and get some good damage down onto the Iron Hands.
Because, like, if this gets a burn...
To help out. And there is that crucial burn. This Iron Hand is now on a timer. And it's not able to be very threatening with this Drain Punch. Wasn't heading towards the Amoonguss anyway. Doing an absolute pittance of damage and not really healed up enough to keep it around as the Rocky Helmet and the burn should end it for Iron Hands right away.
I really thought
that
you
is a
really got this
massive
from the
turn
US.
for Chi-Yu.
Yeah,
I just see him on a lot of streams, I guess.
Knocking itself out there. Certainly, Alistair not anticipating it would have been burned.
I don't know that much about the big names.
Where he gets the free switch
I know who the big names are.
To help out a little bit more, perhaps allow Landorus to now be quicker than the Chi-Yu.
Yeah, the Landorus probably in range to be quite threatened, I would imagine. So being able to deal with that problem, maybe getting things a little bit faster.
You got a
with
Terra.
Tailwind, and then of course being able to land a big
You
knockout.
got a Terra.
Would be huge. The Chi-Yu carrying the choice specs, not able to hang on with something like Focus Sash, so a Stomping Tantrum would be absolutely fantastic there. Of course, the Amoonguss really struggling
your
to say
specs
no to
and you
Landorus
don't
right now.
have a switch. You Stomping Tantrum is going to hurt.
The other one's at least threatening Taunt, although the only way you could use it on this turn if you're making a pretty hard read. And Amoonguss
There's
just getting out
nothing to
Yeah,
punish
it has to.
a Stomping
Doesn't make
Tantrum
sense.
into
And
the
of course, we
Chi-Yu
have
right now.
Generator going as well. Iron Hands comes in, we have to slow things down next turn. The big thing though is the Chi-Yu is kind of stuck in this situation. Doesn't have a choice, so there is the Terrestrialization onto the Landorus. It is going to be Water Terror, so maybe trying to help out a little bit, but does awkwardly make itself vulnerable to this Iron Hands and its Wild Charge. Tornadus will fire off the Taunt. That is going into the Iron Hands, so was trying to get the Amoonguss there. Of course, Landorus trying to keep itself safe from the Heat Wave with this Terrestrialization. But it's just not able to really stop big damage. Anyway, a
Wow,
Tantrum goes
okay.
into Chi-Yu, and
So that was-
definitely feels like this has been an interesting one. You know that Chi-Yu is locked into Heat Wave. You are keeping yourself safe from that. But I think Tornadus needs to definitely try and help out the Landorus. The threat of Fake Out is a problem, though.
Exactly. Now it can't, right? Where the Fake Out can come down in either of these Pokemon and create some serious problems. And not picking up the knockout in the Chi-Yu there and not getting the Tailwind up in that turn is going to be really costly. Landorus is protecting, hoping for a Fake Out, but I'm not sure it's going to work out.
No, the Tornadus doesn't have access to Protect. It's got Sunny Day, Taunt, Tailwind, and Bleak Wind Storm, so it's just not able to do that as Tornadus will flinch. Chi-Yu's Heat Wave, obviously going into the Protect of Tornadus. Tornadus needs to dodge this one. It's not going to, though, as it is felled, and that one little bit of remaining health has been able to take it down. So now it's just Landorus and one mystery Pokemon in the back, unable to outspeed the Chi-Yu because of the lack of Tailwind. The Fluttermane coming to the fore, obviously Alistair banking on that one to be his end game win condition, but he's certainly going to be up against it. He needs to get a lot of damage down very, very quickly.
Yeah, but Fluttermane in a much better position in that previous game. Still not looking super decisive or anything, especially with that full health of Amoonguss in the back, but at least is able to check the Chi-Yu to help Landorus
I think
out.
you
Can perhaps
have
succeed where
to
its friend Tornadus
switch
failed,
into the
and at least prevent
Amoonguss.
the Chi-Yu from threatening a knockout in Landorus.
Because then you get the
Yeah,
Rocky
that's
Helmet
certainly
chip.
something that can force some switches, and the Amoonguss is going to be the big problem. Being able to just come in, potentially put it to sleep is
Yeah,
going to be huge.
I like this
we have
play.
talked about multiple
Because
times
then
to make
you're
sure that Alistair ups the ante a
not
little
weak
bit,
to the
and I
Stomping
think, honestly,
Tantrum,
every
and you're not
option
weak to
slow that
the
down.
Moon
You
Blast or
try and
Dazzling
pick up the
Gleam.
Chi-Yu with the Fluttermane, and then get a good bit of damage down onto the Iron Hands, then finish it off with a follow-up. Not able to do that.
Yeah, and there's a huge rationalization coming in here. Iron Hands previously looking down a very disadvantageous type matchup with the ground type Landorus and the fairy type Fluttermane. They're like, I think it'd be a lot better if I was a water type. I think I just prefer to be neutral to everything and instead use my own super effective attacks to take advantage of the type chart.
Well, Iron Hands takes that
That
really,
still
really
is a
well.
lot of
Don't think
damage.
Stomping Tantrum is going to threaten it. Absolutely not. Iron Hands, though, will take advantage of Landorus' type change, which is just punishing immediately with that wild charge, as Landorus is Fells, and it's all on the Fluttermane right now to try and win this game. I just don't see a world where Fluttermane is able to take enough health off this big old Amoongus, which is a full health.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, this just looks like a really tough spot, right? There's a bunch of different potential solutions to this game. I have to worry about the range
I don't know
power,
if I like that.
Using the dazzling gleam, I don't think it's going to be enough.
It's not enough on the Iron Hands,
Because
nor the Amoongus, and Iron Hands is just going to tidy this one up.
I thought it did enough
promptly.
damage
But
to
Alistair out
take
of
the knockout
game
with the
to an
Moonblast.
Gabriel Agati making a bit of a statement here,
Okay.
to be honest. Round 2,
Okay.
that is a comprehensive win.
I know when to say I don't know. This is why they're there, and I am not. They are a little bit better at this than I
Yeah,
am.
for the second round in a row, I feel like we're seeing a player.
But yeah,
who,
I think I
we
would
all
have
expected
rage
to be in
powdered.
contention for the World Championships crown to show why we all believe they were so powerful. Just the
Alright,
fact
switching over to TCG.
ability of having that low HP Pokemon in play, and it's doing exactly that. Look at that. Pal Pad can even bring back 2 of those Iono to give even more constant
So
disruption.
what are we
And
playing
still
in
also got
TCG?
hit right here for Pedro, as well as that Collapse Stadium. So many ways to disrupt, heal, and Pedro will be taking the prize lead, which is usually not something the Gardevoir deck does in this matchup.
Yeah, we're really deep into this game as well. About 27 minutes left
Oof.
on the clock, so this is a game
So
that's taken
for-
quite a long time.
Since I
Feels
know
like
I mostly do
if you're gonna
VGC
win
on
the
this
match,
channel,
you probably need to win this
if you
game.
don't know anything about
There's a lot on the
TCG,
line here.
they get 50 minutes per round,
And that actually applies
and a round is a best of
I did it
3.
right here for
You
not
did
saying
it.
anything.
So a round is a best of 3,
So it will be a
and
catch used. So
you have to
grab
fit
one of those
3
Iono, back
games
into the deck,
into
off the
50
back.
minutes.
Pedro Bertuzzi has done everything
So
he's
if
wanted to. He's essentially been given
somebody's
a bonus turn.
playing
Big
game 1
extra
into the
prize card.
26-minute
All that
mark,
needs to be done is a single psychic embrace onto this Cresselia,
it's
and
a long
he's coming
game,
up with the
and you're probably not going to finish a set of 3, so you either...
Zacian.
And that's why there's so many more ties in TCG than VGC, because it's virtually impossible to get a tie. It's
Oh, he just drew
the
button.
conditions have to be perfect for
Well,
there
there's
to be a tie in
really nothing
VGC.
else that makes sense to knock out.
You have to,
Your
like,
opponent
work
only has 3 company in play. It's not
at
like
getting
knocking out one of those really does anything.
a tie.
So you may as well take out
Um,
the Phoebus and prevent your opponent from blocking your future Iono. Makes sense.
You can still heal off
But
all
yeah,
that damage. Doesn't
so
matter if that's 30 HP.
player on the left is playing
Yeah,
a
this
really
nice simple
cool
actually
lost
come in pretty clutch here.
so
This jet energy
lost
coming
box
down,
deck
no way to attack
with
safe
the
block,
Feebas,
but Spit innocently will be dealing 120 damage.
because Milotic can protect your hand from getting shuffled into
I
your deck.
wonder if this is going to be the turn.
So-
Obviously, Pedro Torres is going to get a knockout. He's going to play down the Radiant Charizard. But this may be a turn where, when he takes his prize card and if he doesn't get a Fire Energy, he may concede the game. It feels like your route to victory at this point is getting a knockout, then on the next turn attacking with Charizard, and then finding a way to knock out that Zacian V with Radiant Charizard. So, big prize card
The
here.
Pokemon Go
Pedro Torres.
Articuno.
No! Both Fire Energy still in the prize cards. You could still piece together a way to win, but it's going to make it a lot tougher.
We're so deep in this game. Yeah, Lost Mine won't even take prize.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is where it starts to get a little bit tiring.
Yeah, Gardevoir EX can come up with a
A little
single
tired
second
right
shot
now.
and can start using Miracle Force with essentially 290 HP remaining. How can Pedro Eugenio Torres piece together those last 3 prizes? I mean, Pedro Bertuzzi on his own is going to be on a 2-turn clock after this turn to win.
But it is worth it, not gonna lie. You only get to have this once a year.
Yeah, it
Worlds
looks like
only
Lost
happens
is already
once a
gonna be
year.
choice here as well. Just saying, you know what? Let's
The
just
last
get
week
that
of summer
Radiant
school is
Charizard
this
off the
week,
board, maybe.
so
Force you
life
to
gets a
have,
little bit
Super
easier.
Rod or Clara, something like that to get it back. And maybe that could just be a game ender.
Excuse me.
Blade coming in as the MVP. Buddy
Yeah.
Catch has put in essentially constant hand disruption, now gusting effect onto the important Pokemon in play. That constant disruption plus aggression. Gardevoir can do it too. I know we say Lost Box is sort of the CEO of putting on early aggression and putting together knockouts. Insult to injury also, getting rid of that H-word. Boss's Orders bringing up Radiant Charizard, and I mean, we're so deep into this game now. Do you ever try to like finish it out with Pedro? Or, I mean, at this point, it feels like if Pedro wins this game, Pedro Eugenio Torres wins this game, it's probably just going to be a tie between both players. I don't see 3 games ever finishing if we're just going to continue at this pace.
I'm struggling to figure out how Pedro Torres is going to win this game. I'm really not sure. You can. No, I really don't get it. Maybe we'll see something here soon, but it seems very, very difficult with no access to fire energy. I mean, you can Lost. I mean, you could potentially like Boss's Orders something up like the Gallade that is a hefty retreat cost and do enough damage to it where maybe your opponent isn't able to retreat it, and maybe that buys you a turn, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem great.
I guess, yeah, if you like Lost Mine and put enough damage counters in the Gallade, you can then like Boss's Orders it up, and then if it can't, it's like you get Brace onto it. I guess that's like your only option to potentially get around it. That seems like it's it.
I don't know what else can be done here. Yep, that's going to be game number 1 for Pedro Pertusi. The turn 2 Gardevoir EX plus Gallade is enough to take down game number 1.
That's a strong combo. I'm going to say that for sure. Double rare candy, Gallade and Gardevoir.
He only plays 2 rare candy. You just played them both turn 2.
That's Forest Sealstone. Forest Sealstone lots of the time acts as sort of that extra consistency card. You either hit the rare candy you wanted those early turns, or it feels like you kind of just play a slower route.
I will be right back because I need a beverage of the caffeine variety, and I'm gonna get a bowl of ice cream because I'm an adult and I knew I would have a craving for ice cream by 10 o'clock at night. So enjoy TCG, and I will be back shortly.
It's still a difficult game to win, even with access to the fire energy. You know, after you miss that one turn of attacking, felt like he was just really far behind. But we'll see if he can rebound here in game number 2. As we mentioned, you know, we are down to about 20 minutes in the round, so it's hard to see a world where all 3 games complete here, unless you know one of the games just ends on the first turn or something like that. But we'll see how this goes.
Long set, long series. I played this a lot of NAIC, and these games are long, they're grindy, and very difficult to finish out. So these starts are going to be very important. Finding Battle VIP Pass, getting a strong explosive start. As a Gardevoir player, if you don't hit that turn 2 rare candy, you kind of fall behind, and even if you do, it's not like you're in an incredible position. Prize cards here, not too terrible. Yep. We do see one of those Iono in the prize cards, the Palpat there too, but it looks like we're setting up to have a very solid game, and Pedro this time going to get a peek and see my prize cards are not nearly as bad as they were in game number 1.
Yeah, it's also very nice when you just, without having looked at your deck at all, you just play a heavy ball and, oh hey, there's a basic for me, good. Also saves you some time because now you don't have to waste time looking through your deck to see what's in your prize cards. Just, all right, now I know. I don't have to spend, 30 seconds or a minute looking through my deck trying to figure out each card that's prized.
Couple copies of Beach Court, but there's actually not too much else going on. Does have the escape rope, so a smart choice there to actually hold the nest ball, wait to find Pokemon to sort of increase the total amount in the deck before using this flower selector. Now, what do you grab here? Jet Energy and Fog Crystal. It will be the choice of grabbing the Fog Crystal, I guess just prioritizing getting as many of these Comfey down into play so flower selecting can be used.
Yep, he's going to grab the second Comfey, just try to get as many cards in the Lost Zone as he can. It does say on the screen that there are 17, but that is not correct. There's just one.
What if your Lost Zone counter transferred over from game to game in a series?
Oh, Lost Box would be a lot better. Yeah.
Turn 1, Sableye, going second.
Yeah, awkward decision here. As the Raihan, which is one of your ways to attack one turn sooner with Radiant Charizard, and that is going to go into the Lost Zone in favor of this level ball. Unable to find Battle VIP Pass, but has a string of Fog Crystal, Level Ball, Nest Ball, and actually prioritizing the Phoebus here. Very interesting.
trying to hopefully get Melodic out this game. It didn't work last time. Of course, we saw it one turn too late, finding it off the top deck. Gonna try to make that happen to make sure there is consistent availability.
Check this out. This thing, we'll see if Phoebus is, gonna evolve into Melodic this game. I don't know.
You have some history with Melodic, don't you?
Played it once or twice, yeah. All right, well, Battle VIP Pass once again for Pedro Pertusi, another picture perfect. Turn 1, being able to search out 2 basic Pokemon. That's all you're really asking for. When you draw this, we've seen this enough. When you draw this in your opening hand, the game tends to go a lot better for you.
Exactly what you want to see. See what the choices are. It does have a plethora of Pokemon to choose from. The Mew out worked very well last game, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see Mew as the selection yet again. He's also playing that Luminion V, so there are 2 cards in Pedro Pertusi's list that can search out these supporter cards from the deck.
Yep, gotta imagine you see a couple Ralts come down, or Radiant Greninja if you have an energy in hand. So you can start using that excellent ability, Concealed Cards, discard an energy from your hand to draw 2 cards. Doesn't seem like much, but turn after turn, that builds up cards in your hand, gets you a lot of value. And in this particular deck, you want to put Psychic Energy cards into your discard pile so that you can use Gardevoir EX's Psychic Embrace ability. So this Radiant Greninja, very important card for this deck.
It's also very hard to search out this Radiant Greninja. Battle Pass and Ultra Ball are the only 2 ways to search out Radiant Greninja. Will also be, look at that, 4 searching cards in this hand. Battle VIP Pass, Level Ball, and the Fog Crystal. So this bench will get filled up pretty quickly, and it looks like there's no need for Mew at this point. I mean, usually you're using this to find things like Battle VIP Pass, but that's not even needed to be an option. So just going to settle for having all 4 Ralts down into play, shuffling the deck up, and is there something like a supporter card to go along with this? There is a Luminion, but actually no. Professor's Research does have to get rid of that Collapse Stadium. We've talked about how that's good at healing things off, but it seems like it's worth the price for seeing 7 fresh new cards this turn.
Yeah, I mean, 4 Ralts in play turn 1. This is a dream. You have to throw away a Curlia. Hurts a little bit, but I mean, if you're playing a Gardevoir deck, this is exactly what you're hoping to see. Fill up your bench with a bunch of Ralts. You use concealed cards. You draw more cards. This is what you hope for. And even going to close it out with the Roar of the Sword from Zacian V to get an energy into play, perhaps.
Trying to retreat into this Radiant Greninja. I feel like attaching the energy to Zacian there is not even terrible. You kind of accept that Ralts will go down with something like Escape Rope, and then next turn all you need is an attachment, and you're not relying on finding one of those rare candy. But I guess just wanting to hopefully try and play around the Escape Rope. I mean, you have so much more value. If Escape Rope gets played, it's like the attachment pretty much just did nothing but discarded the energy instead.
Yeah, but that's fine too. You want to get energy in the discard pile, so it probably doesn't matter that much.
Well, that will be Pedro Pertusi's turn. Pedro Eugenio Torres starting it out with a Flower selecting. Drapion getting swept away to the Lost Zone, and really looking for Colress. Speaking of which, there it is. So, Pedro Eugenio Torres kicking things off. Already at 2 cards in the Lost Zone. I believe that will now be 3, since there was a 1 Flower selecting used last turn, and 2 Flower selectings used thus far, unless that marker is not used there.
Yep, Colress's Experiment, very important card. This is going to kick things off. Interestingly enough, Pedro Torres would have gotten enough into the Lost Zone to use Cramorant's attack this turn no matter what, but this helps you accelerate and make sure that you can potentially get to Sableye on the next turn.
With enough cards in the Lost Zone, Cramorant will come up into the active, ready to attack the Radiant Greninja. It's not enough, 10 damage remaining. That Beach Court will also allow the Radiant Greninja now to retreat for free into any Pokemon that Pedro Pertusi so chooses to. An interesting choice to bench the Sableye. I feel like if there's maybe a way to get down Cresselia this turn, which, I mean, with Penny, there is that potential, but maybe sensing that there's very little opportunity for that to happen and saying, if I get Iona, I just want to have this Pokemon into play and hopefully try and Lost Zone the following turn.
Yeah, I think there's 6 in the Lost Zone, right? I think 2 Comfey both turns and then 2 from the Colress's Experiment.
Was there one or two last turn? I think there was either one or two, but hopefully we'll get confirmation on how many cards are available in the Lost Zone. We definitely saw 4 hit the Lost Zone, so it's either 5 or 6.
Yeah. Either way, enough for lost provisions.
Action back on Pedro Bertuzzi's side.
Yeah,
We'll see Ultra Ball played.
We'll see if we get another turn 2 double stage 2.
Great way to start it off, though, is that refinement. Haven't seen it so far yet in this series. That game 1 played out, I'd say, too picture perfect for Pedro Bertuzzi. Didn't even need to rely on the Curlia to get things going. We'll actually see 2 of these evolved already, and Iono getting played. So Pedro Eugenio Torres and Pedro Bertuzzi both shuffling their hands, putting it onto the bottom of their deck. The level ball as well. Just trying to grab these pieces out if need be. I think we'll just see this Curlia put into the hand. There's no need to evolve it just yet, just in case you get another stellar start like you did game 1 with Double Rare Candy, Gallade, and Guard.
Yep. Yikes. 3 Curlia on turn 2. Also a very good start. Pedro Bertuzzi's just going to be drawing so many cards here. It feels like you're playing like really old formats when you get to this point. Of course, you can even think back to like the Zoroark GX days of trade, especially when you had the execute propagation trade. Your hand would get up to gigantic sizes, and look at that. There's probably like 12 cards in Pedro Bertuzzi's hand.
Does have the Rare Candy and the Gardevoir again on turn number 2. So looks like content with just evolving all these Curlia up, understanding, look, there's a chance you hit Sableye, but there's also a chance that you miss, and I'm just going to get all access to that Rare Candy Gardevoir EX 2 games in a row. I mean, you love to see it in testing, but there's no other stage you want to see it than here at the World Championships in round number 2.
Yep. See the Beach Court allowing that Radiant Greninja to retreat at no cost. And here comes Zacian V once again. I mean, this is just, how do you beat this? Your opponent has 3 Curlia plus a Gardevoir EX on turn 2, and they're attacking you. Normally, you're supposed to be able to battle with this deck by being able to disrupt things, maybe knock out a Curlia, knock your opponent off their game a little bit, but when this happens, it just feels like Gardevoir is almost unbeatable.
Not much that you can do at all. And Pedro's going to try to battle back. Pedro Torres playing Culver's Experiment, up to 8 cards in the Lost Zone, and should be able to see a Lost Mine. And here's where the discussion comes in. I mean, there's 2 easy prize cards on the board right now. Can use Lost Mine, 8 damage counters on the Curlia, and then put 1 remaining damage counter on the Greninja. But, I mean, at that point, how do you keep yourself in the prize lead? Start with the Escape Rope. Pretty easy choice there with the Beach Court in play, bringing up this Radiant Greninja, and as long as there's a Psychic Energy, Sableye will be able to use Lost Mine, and we already see it in the hand for sure.
Yes. We see another Sableye going to the bench as well, prepping for the following turn in case there's any sort of hand disruption. And yeah, Lost Mine, I have to imagine you just take the knockout and then knock out a Curlia and then kind of put the other damage on the Zacian V or something like that. You could also, put it on like another Curlia in case your opponent doesn't have Cresselia. That sets up a potential play for you to get a knockout there. But yeah, 2 prize cards taken for Pedro Torres. Not a bad start at all, but are you going to be able to fight through what's about to be a lot of high HP Pokemon, a lot of card drawing, and basically whatever Pedro Bertuzzi wants, because he's drawn through most of his deck at this point.
Does also have that copy of the Shining Arcana Gardevoir that can also provide consistent draw, and I believe we saw Gallade in the hand already, so can use Refinement first, get the ability to draw some cards, and then evolve it and use Buddy Catch, so getting access to 2 powerful support abilities on each turn, or just on the turn that they're evolved.
Let's see, looks like 3 Pokemon going to get shuffled back in with Super Rod. You never know if your opponent plays Echoing Horn, so sometimes it's good to just throw a Pokemon like Mew back into your deck. It's got low HP. Could be a liability later on in the game.
Playing around any way to lose your lose conditions, always a skill that these high-level Pokemon TCG players are taking. We usually see Fog Crystal get played to grab the energy to discard, but looks like valuing just having those around for later on, just to have consistent manual attachments to not put more damage onto the board, perhaps. Does draw into that Radiant Greninja that was put back with the Super Rod. will we see that get benched down again? And we're just seeing
The discard piles saying, I don't need psychic energy.
Alright,
I'm
well-
more than set up and ahead in this game.
The AC kicked on while I
and
was
interesting
downstairs, so I
decision
just
now for
left the
Pedro
audio
Bertuzzi.
running.
One of the things
But
I
that
always
slow
struggle with
poke
in this matchup
pose,
is knowing
that's gonna
how
be
many
a
more Pokemon you can play onto your
new
bench
profile
without it
picture
coming
for so
back
many
to haunt
people.
you later. This is an opportunity where it seems, oh wow, just going to evolve to a second Gardevoir EX. This is what seems like a decent opportunity for Cresselia,
Oh,
and that is
man.
what's going to happen here. But, you know, Cresselia is a Pokemon that
This
is easily
TCG
knocked
match
out,
is
either by Cramorant or
rough
Sableye, so it is one more prize
for
card you give to your opponent.
the the Lost Box
Just
player.
kind of weighing, you know, can I afford to give up one more easy prize card? And I think in this situation, the answer is yes. There's just so many high HP Pokemon on the board now, you don't have to worry about giving up this one easy knockout, but that is something you need to keep in mind when playing this matchup. Sometimes playing down Cresselia at the wrong time, or playing down one more Pokemon that you shouldn't have, can end up losing you the game against these Sableye decks.
Cresselia will come into the active spot. Does only need to use two Psychic Embrace abilities, since there is already damage on both the Gardevoir EX and the Zacian, so this will not only take the knockout, but heal some damage off as well.
It looks like it's going to go after the active Sableye here. I was wondering if we would see the Phoebus knocked out again, but no. Sableye is going to be the choice. Going to force Pedro Torres to find another Psychic Energy.
Well, we finally see Melodic come into play. I think that actually might be pretty big here for Pedro Eugenio Torres to stop the onslaught of Iono that will continue to be played
Ooh, there it
throughout
is.
the series, and finds it. Are we going to see it get evolved down?
Dugard at Worlds. Never thought I'd see the day.
Times are changing, Kyle. Times are changing. We also see the Psychic Energy come down, and I think just slow rolling us here, not evolving it right away, keeping it around for later. This Fog Crystal will find more cards out of the deck. This time that Comfey. Don't quite think we'll see that get played down at this point, unless Pedro really needs to find another resource, but hasn't even used Beach Court yet, so at minimum can just lost mine again with this Sableye that has a Psychic Energy on it.
We see the Pokegear, yeah, just thinning out the deck for Pokegear. Maybe trying to find the Clara here.
Here it is.
We have found one. Alright, so Pedro Torres gonna try to battle back in this game. It does seem a little difficult to find a route to victory here. I don't see Echoing Horn in his deck either, so that could have been a way to kind of find an easy prize card along the way. But the good news here is with the Milotic, the Dugard, it will prevent any future hand disruption from Pedro Bertuzzi. So Pedro Torres is going to be able to do basically whatever he wants for the rest of the game as long as that Milotic stays in play.
The question here is, do you even use Sableye, or do you go in with Cramorant to take this knockout? But it looks like Pedro Eugenio Torres just wants to take the knockout with this Sableye. But I mean, if you're not knocking Cresselia out, how are you spreading your damage around?
Yep. And there it is. The Dugard has finally arrived.
It's here, Kyle. It's here.
Yep. Alright, we are going to see just a lost mine for the knockout on the Cresselia, going down to 3 prize cards now, and this game is about to get really interesting. At this point, I think it seems pretty clear you probably cannot bench any other Pokemon that have 120 HP or less. You need to constrain your board to just things that are very difficult for your opponent to knock out. And we'll see what Pedro Bertuzzi does from here.
Time very much winding down in this round. 5.5 minutes remaining as we're entering the end game of game number 2. The battle of the Pedros. Who will be victorious? I think Pedro Bertuzzi is just a little concerned about
Next
bringing
time I have
Zacian
a
up because with this
live
knockout,
stream
there is
watch
always the
party,
potential for something like
one,
Rhyhorn
I'll
to
have better
power up
snacks.
a Charizard,
Two,
knockouts, and that could be one way that
I'll have
Pedro
2
Eugenio
scenes
Torres
set up
swings his way
on
back in this
OBS,
game number 2 and potentially
so
squeaking
that
back
I
out
can
of this
like
round.
Yeah, I mean,
put
you
the
did see Ryan go to
TCG
the
in the
lost
big
zone, so,
spot.
I mean, sometimes players use 2, but for the most part, you can probably assume your opponent only has 1, so that's probably not a thing you have to worry about. You know, last year at the World Championships, we saw lots of decks playing, you know, Magma Basin and all sorts of things, and oh, we actually see the boss's orders on the Milotic,
Freezer Burn is a
recognizing the
brand
threat
new
of Dugard
carton of ice cream.
and trying to get that out of here so that on a future turn you can use Iono and disrupt your opponent's hand.
smart to do it right now. You know your opponent's going to potentially go down to lower and lower prizes, and by knocking Melodic out, you're not going to be able to, on Pedro Eugenio Torres' side, establish that next turn. Sure, you can bring it back with something like Clara or Super Rod and re-bench the Phoebus, but you're still very prone and open to getting Iono'd at this point, even showing, look, I'm going to put these back in my deck now that your Phoebus is going to be gone.
Dang, it finally comes into play, and it only lasts one turn.
They can't let us have any fun up here, Kyle. I think you can brace use to make sure that Zacian can use the storm. And boom, Melodic, as graceful as it
Computer
arose,
might finally
falls
be
that much.
crashing. It's not that hot.
Short-lived.
I wanted to see an Iono get played and him not shuffle his hand into his deck. And not into his deck, but below. But speaking of shuffling your hand into your deck, Roxanne coming down. Finally a way for Pedro to respond.
There it is.
There it is.
All right. So yeah, a lot of these decks at Worlds have been including lots of hand disruption cards. Normally in these kind of lost box decks, we have not been seeing very many Roxanne, Iono, things like that. Mostly just playing Coerce's Experiment and then sometimes Boss's Orders, but then Clara, of course. But yeah, Pedro is still playing Roxanne, and we'll see if this can bring him back into the game. Now, unfortunately, there is still the Glade with that Buddy Catch, so
Metacham
it's not
dances?
gonna do a whole lot in terms of like making Pedro Bertuzzi draw a bad hand or anything like that. You can always just search up, Professor's Research or whatever. But maybe this breaks up some sort of potential combo that may happen, and also gives you a fresh hand of 6 cards.
Refresh and Disruption, Roxanne doing its job best. Easy choice off Flower selecting. Manaphy going into the Lost Zone. I have to wonder here, how do you spread damage with this Lost Mine? It feels like if you have any idea that Penny's in the deck, putting the damage counters onto the Zacian essentially is just negating the turn. Do you ever try and maybe target the Glade, play another hand disruption card, and then start to set up the Zacian for the mat to KO it?
This is tough. You can try to make it so that both Gardevoir have 250 HP left. So then Radiant Charizard can knock him out with Combustion Blast. And it looks like that is what Pedro Torres is doing. If your opponent puts down a Cresselia and moves some of the damage off, then there's an easy knockout for you right there. And then you just need to knock out the Zacian V to win the game. This is extremely complicated. There's just so many paths each player can take at this point. And this is a situation where I think we just need to sit back and watch where this game goes, because there's so many things that can happen at this point.
So many variables, so many different ways things can unfold as we get into a minute and a half in this game. So time could completely become a factor. I think if Pedro Eugenio Torres doesn't finish his turn, I think there is enough time that this game will finish in 2 to 3, but we're actually going to see the Penny get grabbed off of the Buddy Catch. Also see the Forest Seal Stone in hand too, so that can grab another card if Pedro Bertuzzi so chooses to. Super Rod as well. Let's put the Lumineon. I mean, Lumineon is not a great Pokemon to have down in this matchup, but if you do find it on the last turn of the game, it can give you that last crucial supporter card you need to either dig through your deck, dust up a Pokemon, or heal something up.
Yeah, this is an excellent play. So you can Forest Seal Stone for the Cresselia you just put in. If you Penny, you pick up your only real liability in Zacian V, because when you use Moonglow Reverse, you'll then put the Gardevoir EX back out of range for Radiant Charizard's Combustion Blast. So this feels like it's kind of closing the door on this game. Pedro Bertuzzi playing very well. You can see why he is the #1 ranked player in Latin America. It's been a masterclass, and it doesn't hurt when you have perfect setups. Turn 2 both games, but you do need to still close the games out. There's still plenty of opportunities for you to screw up a start like that. And he has taken full advantage of everything this game.
I've heard lots of talk on and off the playing field about how Lost Box is so good into the Gardevoir deck, but I mean, this has been a masterclass so far from Pedro Bertuzzi, showing that this matchup is very much navigatable.
Pedro
Bertuzzi. The Glade come down. It does have that swirling slice
he's got this
160 damage.
Yeah, I think he needs to put energy on there to retreat, because a lot of the energy was on Zacian V.
It's true. just see that pivot out. I was wondering, I don't know if Swirling Slice here is exactly what he wants to go for, but it makes sense that Cresselia comes down. Zacian no longer in play. It's done its job. It's taken prize cards. It's found pieces out of the deck. It will just be on the rest of the team. The Gardevoir and Gallade, plus the assist of Cresselia, to get Pedro Bertuzzi to the finish line, put him at a 2-0 record. Psychic Embrace used on the active Cresselia will put it to the 20 damage. Both Gardevoir EX healed down to 40, and Pedro Bertuzzi going down to 2 prize cards.
Yeah, you can see an interesting choice as well. Saying, you know what, you already have 2 Sableye powered up. What's the difference between knocking one out here? I'd rather just take away any options you may have with Comfey. Yeah, looks like we have it tied.
For the record, I did just get that fruit fly.
We are in the +3 turns portion of this match.
That was
Pedro
satisfying.
I think down to 2 prize cards at this point. Seems like has a pretty good lock on this game. But we'll see if Pedro Torres can figure out some crafty way to get back into this one.
So Pedro Eugenio Torres,
let's
turn number 1.
make a switch. Oh, and I was also behind in the live stream.
Rounds, right?
All right, there
and
we
that's
go.
all these players have got to work on to build these teams going into day 2. I wonder what adjustments have been made coming into today.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about the flexibility with the speed control, because a lot of players are kind of relying on one of those aspects. You know, a lot of players are kind of centralizing around just Tailwind or centralizing around a Trick Room. But with Eric's team, like you say, it has got that flexibility to kind of mold itself around whatever the opponent doesn't want to happen. And that's exactly what we saw in that game 3, kind of adapted against the Tailwind there, but he does have that Tailwind option for himself that he can utilize, and I think that's really nice. And
What they're talking about right now, being able to go Tailwind or Trick Room, is what makes me very excited about Whimsicott coming out in
go on the fly and say, well, no, this turn I want to go for the Trick Room,
the
this turn I want to
Indigo
go for the
Disc,
Tailwind,
I
and
think
kind of
it's
adapt
called.
around that and really make it very difficult for
The second
your
half of the
opponent to kind
DLC.
of play against, because you don't know really what's going to happen. I mean, you do know what's going to happen because if the Tornadus is out, you know the Tailwind's coming, the
And
Trick
over
Room's
team
not coming
sheet's
then.
kind of helpful, I suppose.
But if you have
yeah.
Tornadus and Flutterman out on the field at the same
What's
time,
gonna happen?
yeah, it does really make it difficult for your opponent. I think it gives Eric a huge advantage, not only on a team sheet level, because it is open team sheets this tournament, but also in game if he does decide to go with, you know, leads like that.
I think we used to see that a bit with Indeedee Omrouge teams, where they both could run Trick Room. It's like, which one's going to click the button?
Yeah.
Which one do I target? And that would often be such a difficult mental game for the players in those particular matchups. Speed control's been critical though. We were talking with Aaron about it at the beginning of the day on the couch. You know, Icy Wind, Thunder Wave as well as ways to slow down your opponent, I think have been a really nice tech that a lot of the players have put onto their teams. Icy Wind, Fluttermane you were talking about, right?
Yeah, Icy Wind, Flutterman, and I have to give a little shout out to Adam as well. I totally overlooked the fact that he did pick Thunderous
He did.
in his predictions, you know, so big shout out to Adam, because I think he's definitely onto something there, and you know, I think Thunderous as well with that Thunder Wave is going to be a big player in this tournament. I hope to see more players with it, because I think that being able to utilize that move to quite devastating effect with that kind of 25% chance to stop your opponent from moving is huge, whilst also lowering your speed as well. It's an instant speed control. It doesn't go away, you know, it is stuck there for the rest of the game unless you have, you know, some ability to remove that, but most of the time it's going to be there for the rest of the game.
Exactly, and speed control being such a critical amount of play. Stop the clock though, however. Lee and I are behind the desk, and we haven't mentioned our best friend Gastrodon so far. Hopefully you guys have got your download at home as well. Eduardo Cunha, the reigning world champion.
I got mine.
He knocked out the competition yesterday in day 1, but he is still the Gastrodon pioneer nonetheless. You have this amazing Gastrodon you can see here on your screen. You could receive your very own version of Eduardo Cunha's Gastrodon here, the East Sea variant, the best sea variant.
The best sea variant. Yes, use the code 23WCS Gastrodon. See the O is 0 in the code on your copy of Scarlet and Violet. You'll be able to pick up this lovely gift Pokemon in your games until the 14th of August. So do grab it while you can. I know you've already got yours.
I do, of course.
I've already got mine.
Good. I expect no less. And do you know what's been really lovely? Walking around the venue, the amount of players who've come up to me and kind of said, look at my Switch, I've got my Gastrodon. And I just love the Gastrodon lovers going around this venue. It's amazing.
I heard the Pokemon Center, it's sold out of Gastrodons.
That's actual fact. We checked yesterday. So we were going to try and get a few more Gastrodon for the broadcast, but it seems like, you know, the Gastrodon hype
Too
is
many
running rampant.
Gastrodons.
Everybody's picking up their Gastrodon plushie at the Pokemon Center. And I'll have you know, in day 2, There are 7 Gastrodons in the Masters division, 3 in juniors and 3 in seniors.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe at the minute.
And we're gonna get
there's
some
only
more
one
raids
Gastrodon at
done
2-0
right
in
now.
Masters division,
While we.
But because the Dream is still alive at X2, they're all still in contention.
They are definitely in contention. We know the player that is running that Gastrodon, so we are secretly rooting for them in our exclusive Gastrodon club.
Yeah,
All of
just
you
the
that went
Gastrodons.
out there and bought these lovely Gastrodons at the Pokemon Center.
Gastrodon gets KOs. Facts. It happens.
And it's not affected by Thunderwave either.
That is true.
And it loves Trick Room.
It loves Trick Room.
And it loves any water type attacks.
It does, and with terrestrialization, you know, that grass type weakness that it's got, not a problem if you want to turn it into Terra Grass, or I'm still an advocate for Terra Ghost. Because Iron
I
Hand,
do like that.
very,
I'm finally
very
getting
strong.
enough
when
grass
you are
terror
not Terra, having
shards.
that ground typing means you're not going to take any damage from the electric type attacks.
Yes.
And then if you know you're worried about maybe a fighting or a normal type attack, turn into Terra Ghost. You have to worry about Flutter Mane at that point, but that's why you have a partner, right?
It's a nightmare for Rapid Strike Urshifu though, isn't it?
Yes.
What does Rapid Strike Urshifu do
Nothing.
to a Terra Ghost Gastrodon?
That's so true. There you go. Problem solved.
Terra Ghost.
Honestly,
You
though,
heard it here
he's
first,
not
Lou's
wrong.
Secret call of the day.
I mean, Gastrodon's just great, no matter what you do.
It
to
is
be honest.
Brilliant Pokemon. If you didn't notice, we're big fans.
Yeah. If you're only just tuning in, where have you been?
Yeah.
Gastrodon is here. But we also have a match ready and waiting, so we'll be diving over to it very, very soon. But let's take a quick look at some of the pairings here. The top one on your blocks there, Joseph
Okay,
Ugarte
Joe
versus
Ugarte.
Hugo Hirata. This is going to be a
Ooh, Chop
phenomenal
Across
match.
is
Joseph
still
Ugarte,
in.
really, really well-known player from America. All of these top place finishes at internationals, at regionals, and then earlier this year he was able to win the Portland Regional Championships that I believe was a title that he was defending at that tournament and was able to take it back-to-back Portland Regional Champion.
Yeah, it was a great display from Joseph, and you know he's been very consistent again throughout the season, coming back here into day 2, and hopefully going to continue that on throughout this tournament because a very, very strong player. Nice to see him getting that regional win. Kenjo as well. This is actually his first time at the World Championships. He finished in the top 6 at the Japan National Championships earlier this year, so completely new to this event, but coming in, having a really good start to the day, and I expect a lot of things from Kenjo as we go into this tournament. Also running a very, very strong team.
Yes, and again, so many great players on here as well. I was
If
able
you're
to watch
looking
little
for
bit
a
about the
strategy
round 2 match
with
Barris Actros,
all of the raids that are going on right now,
making some very, very
the Scizor,
simple
Blissey,
plays to the
and
point where forcing your
Hydreigon.
opponents to make some over predictions. And it does just show, you know, he's such a young player that he's just got this natural ability to look at a board state and
Annihilate.
say, let's do this. This will put
Annihilate
the player in this position where they're forced to do this. And it was great to
is
see that.
absolutely perfect.
It's brilliant to see when you can kind of observe these players, especially newer players to the scene coming
I mean,
in,
I've
having that
struggled
natural
with the
ability with their skill level,
Hydreigon,
to go forward and kind of go into a
but
big event like this and kind of perform on this high level.
Annihilate,
And then
Shell
apart
Bell,
from the
bulk up a
highlight
bunch of,
ones, Kentaro
pretty
versus
much
Shohei, I think
5
that's
to
a
6
great match,
times.
so really want to keep an eye out for the results of that one. But like you say, we're concentrating on this one. Kenjo versus Joseph, will be getting into that in a minute, but the teams look great going into this one, Lou.
Yes, we'll be able to talk about the teams a little bit later once we've confirmed the headsets are on. But just one Pokemon to give you a bit of maybe interest. When we talk about our Treasure of Ruin Pokemon, we've talked about Chi and Pal.
Oh, no.
We've talked about Chi-Yu a little bit. But there's one Pokemon we really haven't mentioned much.
It's a Tapu Bulu of the Rune Pokemon.
That it is. The Tapu Bulu, the Pokemon
Oh.
that everyone is desperately trying to make work. And it does share a typing with Tapu Bulu.
It definitely does, and it's
All right,
snail
we
Pokemon.
gotta talk about this.
Yeah, I think
Wo-Chien.
being a Pokemon,
Are we really seeing a Wo-Chien on stream right now?
Who's gonna kind of make it work? You know, get a team built around it, and Joseph seems to have done that because he's had such a good start to the tournament today, and he is piloting it into this tournament. So I'm very, very interested. Hopefully, we will see it in this match, but it is something on his team sheet.
Yes, and of course the other Treasure of Ruin Pokemon to talk about is Tinglu, a Pokemon we saw yesterday. I believe it was on Patrick Donegan's team.
All
With
right.
that, you know, it was
Yeah,
hard to look past the
it's
Bulbasaur
worth
and the
keeping the
Articuno
AC
and
off
Crowd
so we
Lake
can
play
talk about
on
Wo-Chien.
directly
Wo-Chien's
down
actually
that
on
minute.
the
But
team
what
I'm
does
planning
this
on
not
bringing
say?
to
I'm so
Pittsburgh.
sorry to say again now, so I'm gonna check
As
those
of right
six
now.
Pokemon. We're doing so well for Patrick, but the Tinglu was also a part of the team, and I think when
Yeah.
Regulation was it C came in with the Treasure of Ruin
Regulation
Pokemon, Tinglu was just such a bulky Pokemon. It was really difficult for players to find a way to defeat it quickly in a match.
Yeah, it started off when it first got introduced. There was a lot of assuring going on with it, but
gosh,
then
yes.
there was all that little period of time. But then players really kind of adapted to it and made it into a very kind of difficult Pokemon defensively. Terra Poison was kind of the choice. So Terra Water variations on there as well, but you know the ability to kind of support the rest of the teammates, and because of its sheer defensive ability anyway, it makes it a very difficult Pokemon to deal with. Good ground type as well, and with that dark typing on top of that, made it quite good against a lot of the kind of ghost threats in the format.
And I think as well, having Terra type axes like Terra Poison, Tinglu we saw running around a lot as well, does make it that little bit more weak to ground type moves. And everybody says you need a ground resist in some way on your team, right? Getting a poison type isn't the way to do that. But I think this natural bulk and the fact that you had other Pokemon that were able to KO those pesky ground types against you just meant that Tinglu was always set up for success.
Yeah, I mean, at the time you think...
I'm surprised they're not talking about how Gastrodon could KO those ground types for the Terra Poison Tinglu.
It's the perfect Pokemon to come in against that because it can soak up all of the...
I should probably write that down.
Building up pretty well.
That'd be a good idea.
Back with those big stomping tantrums and even dog type attacks to a certain extent. So it's a very, very good Pokemon. And nice to see it integrated into Regulation D. We did get to see it featured yesterday because I think between Tinglu and the Warshen, they're kind of the two-room Pokemon that we don't really see too much of. You know, Chimpao is one of the probably more popular picks, and then GU as well, which we have featured already today. So yeah, nice to see these lesser picked Pokemon kind of coming up and making an appearance in the World Championship.
I got my 6 bulk ups, and now I click Drain Punch, and see this Blissey go all the way down to like 1/10 of its health.
Ready and waiting for Swiss round 3 here in day 2 at the Pokemon World Championships 2023 in Yokohama, Japan.
Yeah, getting ready to get into this match here, and we'll get into the teams, Lou. I'll go through Kenjo's team. We've got Joseph actually on the screen, so it's probably better if we start with Joseph's team there with the Warchen.
I like his shirt.
Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Thunderous Incarnate, Landorus Therian, and Fluttermane.
Yes, one thing I really like is some potential synergy that's going to be going down on Joseph's team. The Wochian we'll get into for in a minute, but Thunderous and Fluttermane. This Fluttermane is running a move Hex. Now Hex, with the choice specs, is devastating when it goes down into a Pokemon that has a status affliction. And that's where Thunderous comes in. Running something like that Thunder Wave, particularly with Prankster, where it's going to be able to get that priority before the speedy Fluttermane is able to move, means you're going to have this great potential synergy of Thunder Wave, Hex, KO.
Yeah, we've mentioned the Thunder Wave, and we are going to see it featured hopefully in this match. It is something that Joseph is utilizing. Alongside that Hex, a very strong combination. But over on Kenjo's side of the field, we've got the Urshifu. But it is in fact the single strike variant, not the Rapid Strike. So an interesting choice. We've got the Heatran, Cresselia, Dragonite, Fluttermane, and the Rillaboom.
Yes, and a Pokemon I really want to talk about here again is this Cresselia. Now, a move that again has terrified people in the past is Ally Switch, and it's one of those difficult moves to call. Is it going to be activated? It has that priority to be able to switch the Pokemon on either side. It's taken a little bit of a nerf in the sense that you can't run it as consistency. It has the chance to fail if you're using it back to back, but still, that first chance that you get to go for an Ally Switch can really throw the momentum in your favor of a match.
Yeah, and it's one of those moves when you see it on an open team sheet that already puts mind games at the forefront of the battle, because are you thinking, when are you going to click it, are they going to click it, and it makes you question some of your move choices, making it already difficult before you get into the match, never mind if the Cresselia comes out and you have to kind of think about it in the heat of battle. So I really like the choice of it. It looks as though it is a more supportive Cresselia. Running the Moonblast obviously is its offensive option, but with that Ally Switch, it's got Luna Blessing as well to support the rest of its partnering Pokemon, being able to heal itself and its partners, and also that Trick Room as well. It can really support on its
Trick Room surprises. I guess not. Because you could Trick Room for the Heatran and the Rillaboom, and then just use priority moves with the Dragonite and the Burst.
Like it too much, but that Warchen is something that probably will thrive under a Trick Room environment, especially with the set that he's running.
Particularly with that Fire Water Grass core that Joseph is running, you know, the Wochian for the grass, Heatran for the fire, Urshifu, Rapid Strike for the water combination. And I think they're a really solid, consistent three. Wochian may be a more niche pick. We're often seeing Pokemon like a Bungus or Rillaboom really filling in for that grass typing. But Wochian, very, very bulky, has again this Terra type poison that will allow it some more defensive capabilities. And it can really set up nicely with something like a Giga Drain to regain a little bit of HP. We often see it running something like Leech Seed. That is not the case here on Joseph's side, which indicates it's maybe a little bit more of an offensive style.
Yeah, and interestingly enough as well, both players opting to run Heatran as well. A Pokemon that was talked a lot about yesterday about how
It's a very good typing. It's very strong into this format, especially with that kind of commonly used Terra Grass type. Now, Kenjo is running Terra Grass on his Heatran, but you're opting for the Terra Fairy. A little bit different here. But, you know, I think it comes down to both Heatrans are broad. Which Heatran has the speed advantage in particular?
2.5 hours down.
At all,
I am not making it through the night.
Then it comes a little bit easier to deal with the opposing.
Yeah, it's definitely
because I think even
a
when
long
you
night.
are on Joseph's side of the field, if you do go for that Terra Fairy on yours, you're still going to be susceptible to potential Earth powers that could come out. Whereas if you're on Kenjo's side and you go for that Terra Grass and you
How was I able to do that last night?
coming out, and especially anything like any fire type attacks with that nice flash fire ability.
Very, very true. Another Pokemon I want to talk about is a kind of throwback to the very beginning of this tournament, not this tournament, of this season, is the Dragonite that Kengo's running. It's that classic normal Terra type with a choice band and extreme speed.
I blame
Right, that
Asher.
scalability as well to give the extra bulk that it needs
Because last night
with that choice
you
band
were chewing
and
on
being able to
bones
deal so
all
much
night long.
priority damage with the extreme speed. And I love the coverage.
And now
of
look
Rainbow.
at him.
Not only do you have priority extreme speed, you also have Aquajet. And having
Passed
priority
out.
moves means you're allowed to invest a little bit more into the bulk of your
Asher.
It doesn't have to be the speediest thing on the field because of the access.
Sit up for a second so everybody knows you're alive. Come here. Good boy. Wag the tail. Show everybody you're alive. Good boy. Good boy.
So we'll kind of mitigate the damage slightly from the
Oh,
Dragonite,
see?
but like you
He's
said,
wagging.
try
He's
to
alive.
go for that normal Terra typing. Having the choice band, it is going to hit still pretty hard. So that's
Really
something
that
that Joseph
sleepy?
really
Gotta
does
tuck
need
you
to
in,
take
buddy.
into consideration
Gotta
going
tuck
into
you
this
in.
match, especially because the Dragonite does have that multi-scale ability, which will be able to soak up attacks a lot better at full HP.
Yes, and the Aquajet allows you to lock in against those pesky ghost types. But let's jump into the battle. It is going to be really
One thing to know about my dog,
Kengo's side
he
of the field,
loves his
Joseph Duarte
blankies.
kicking it off with that thunderous
He brings them
and
everywhere.
grassy terrain on the field, giving a little bit of
I
recovery
mean,
to the
I'm
ground
sure
Pokemon.
you've seen
Yeah, starting
his
off
other
with
blanket.
that combination, we touched upon the Thunder Wave and that Hex combination coming out of traps here.
Ash, I'll give you some spot.
Something that
Okay.
the Heatran and the Rillaboom both need to be quite careful of going into this first turn. The Rillaboom does have access to fake out though, so Thunderous has to be a little bit careful, and that's what we're going to see going into this first turn, Larry.
There we go. Rillaboom has to watch out though as well. The Rocky Helmet going to do a little bit of damage back in return. As Floodmane follows up with the Hex, we can only assume that Thunder Wave was possibly the move coming out from that Thunderous. Heatran able to take it really well. Goes for the Magma Storm. So this is going to do a chunk of damage to the Thunderous, but critically
I
trap in
love
and
Magma
swirling
Storm.
Magma going to keep Thunderous on the field. It has no escape at this point.
That is huge damage coming out from the
What's the
Heatran,
accuracy
as well
on
as
it, though?
trapping that Thunderous, which is an added secondary effect to this
Because,
move,
like,
making the Thunderous unable to switch out.
you
It is in a
could-
prime position now to utilize that Prankster ability though, and go for something like a Thunder Wave, and then combine it with that Hex that we've just seen from the Fluttermane to double the damage on that move, which puts the Heatran in a little bit of a precarious position because double damage might
75%
see that Heatran go down this
accuracy.
next turn. The Rillaboom though does have access.
You put
to
zoom lens on it?
Can probably be in a healthier position.
If you
Heatran
put
maybe
zoom
goes
lens
for
on it,
protect.
is
We
it
see
a
U-turn
gen
come out
Pokemon?
here, so just allowing Kenjo
So
to
it has the
reposition.
minimal.
Yeah, that'd be good. Some great positioning here from Kengo. You're going to see the Thunder Wave go down into that
Speed.
Rillaboom. The Prankster priority going to be able to connect that status move
That-
before Rillaboom
that
has a
whole
chance
thing is
to attack it. Wouldn't
very
surprise to see
conflicting,
U-turn go
the
just to
whole-
follow up. But here's the Hex, the synergy we were talking
For
about.
those of you that
Learn how to
haven't
get the
seen
KO going,
anything
however,
on
and
Twitter,
U-turn goes into that opposing Fluttermane, a little bit of
about
juke, and now there's
a
allowed
lot
to go
of competitors got DQ'd from generating their Pokemon and hacking them into their games. So I don't know where I fall on it because I mean I guess I'd take the how I grade my assignments is I tell you the directions, and if as long as you follow the directions you get a good grade. Like that's how I grade my projects all the time. Maybe not homework, but projects specifically. The rubric really is. I take my instructions and I check off the checklist. If you miss one of the steps, that's the point that you miss. So yeah. Do I blame people for genning them? No, absolutely not. Because I can I've never genned my Pokemon. I make them all. But that's why I'm prepping my Pittsburgh team 5 weeks out because I know that like that's how much time it's going to take me to make an entire team while working a 9-to-5 job. So yeah, I guess I understand their people's frustration that this was the first time that they really cracked down on it and there wasn't really any warning. But it was also within their right to crack down on it without any warning, in my opinion. So I got nothing. That's pretty much all I got. So, but that Wo Qian saving the Landorus with that. Oh, that was a great turn.
Coming in and doing some work.
Fantastic plays there. That Landorus means business. I think it's great though, like you were talking about the stomping tantrum. It's a new move that it's got access to. Previously had to go for that earthquake if it wanted to deal with any of its physical ground type.
I gotta also give a shout out to the production value of this of World so far.
Yeah, and you've got to imagine here,
so few technical difficulties.
At any point, it's going to be onto that trying to get that grassalization type. So it is going to be able to kind of not have to worry about those stomping tantrums coming out from the Landorus. And looks like we're going to see it, Lou.
Here we go, terrestrialization out of the blocks. It's going to be on that Wo Qian, and it's going to be going for the poison and terror type here. Great defensive capabilities.
Yeah, and the Wo Qian.
Why did he stomping tantrum into the Cresselia? Or did I just misread that?
Snarl is something that the Heatran does have to watch out for, but just go for the Protect this turn as that Wo Qian does go for the Terrestrialization, and we are going to see another Stomping Tantrum into that Cresselia, but Moonblast coming out and going to be able to finally pick up the knockout onto that Landorus.
Yeah, long live the Landorus no more. It has been finally felled by that opposing Cresselia as Wo Qian does go for the Snarl. I think you make a great observation that there's not a lot that Wo Qian can really do to that opposing Heatran. Whereas the Heatran on Kengo's side has access to Earth Power, now that you are this Poison Terror type on that Wo Qian, you're going to fall vulnerable to those Earth type attacks.
Yeah, and if you can utilize that Magma Storm once again to kind of trap it in, so you've got it on the field, sitting on the field, making sure that it cannot switch out, and then you can
can't switch out because it's the last
after that. The one thing you've got to watch out for if you are Kenjo is that Snarl, because it will slow your offensive capabilities down quite considerably, and you really, the one thing with Wo Qian is as well, it's a very good defensively built Pokemon. It's going to be able to soak up these attacks pretty well.
I think you prioritize the
lowering that special attack on Kenjo's side of the field.
Very true, and it's time now for Jason Bugatti to play that for Kengo to go for that Terrestrialization, and it's going to be on the Fairy Cresselia. Really nice.
I think you have to remember that
it can always have
access if the Cresselia has a psychic type move, okay, but
a critical hit, not enough to get the KO here as Flash Cannon fired up. Rather, the Heatran is enough to get a knockout.
I think you wanted to.
Wow, critical hits all round, Lee.
Yeah, huge turn here. 2 critical hits back to back.
There's a psychic type move.
The Fairy Terrestrialization, really nice there, taking away that
comes
weakness
out,
to the potential Shadow Ball that came out from that Fluttermane. Unfortunately, critical hit there for Kenjo. A little bit harder to take there.
That wasn't smart.
The Trick Room now does have access to Lunar Blessing. Is it going to be able to get that off before that Wo Qian? It'll be interesting to see how the speed interactions work here. The Wo Qian in a position.
The Wo Qian was slower than the.
To knock out that Cresselia before
what?
Can do anything, but with the Wo Qian.
I think he could have.
Looks like we are going to see.
Because that Cresselia wasn't doing anything.
Wow,
to the Wo
Qian. The Trick Room
Qian.
was very interesting there at the end. Wo Qian generally pretty slow, wouldn't have minded necessarily a little bit of Trick Room action, but like you pointed out, there were too many Pokemon on Kengo's side for
I think
the Slug to be able to try, well, the Snail, not the Slug, that's Gastrodon.
I think if he skipped or didn't do Snarl that last turn and set up the Leech Seed into the Heatran, then started cycling Protection Snarls.
I think he approached it. I don't think there was really too much wrong with how he approached it.
I think that would have been really cool, interesting.
Might be better.
Might not have been a win, but
with the Magma Storm on his Thunderous, really didn't get much return on that Thunderous at all. You know, he got some good damage onto the Rillaboom, but it kind of got out of there with the U-turn pretty quickly. I think you need to, if you are bringing
I
the
feel
Thunderous,
like
get a little bit more utilization out of it, because that fake out,
I really feel like
really
the
affected the ability
big
for him
thing
to
would
kind of
have
utilize it
been
probably the way you would like to.
Last thing, it's ironic that Joseph Ugarte got a Heatran on his t-shirt right now, so the Heatran on the opposing side of the field, that really put a thorn in his side with that Magma Storm.
Yeah, I think maybe utilizing your own Heatran could be a way to go around it, but I do like Landorus.
how he took out the Urshifu though was really cool.
At any point, it really does threaten quite a lot of things on Kenjo's side. The Heatran not going to appreciate any of those
Ooh,
tantrums.
Azul,
And,
isn't that Azul
it
on
can
TCG?
terastallize as well. It can threaten things like the Rillaboom for good damage.
I'm pretty sure that's Azul.
Urshifu as well, if it doesn't terastallize.
And he's playing
It can be a big
Mew.
role for Joseph. I think he's just got
That-
to get a bit more utility out of his genies that he's brought on his side of the field.
Oh, wait. Wait.
That game one as well.
That's Sejun Park.
Lots of damage there, particularly
That
with the
is-
cannon. But I think at the end of the day, the Wo-Chien just had a little too
That
late
is
to late
Mr.
at the end of the
Pachirisu.
day.
That is a world champion VGC
Coming
player.
into this next game, I mean, the Urshifu, I feel like on
Playing
the side has a lot of
in
potential
day
to
2
do
of the
big damage
TCG.
into something like
That is
opposing
Mr.
Heatran,
Pachirisu.
Cresselia, with something like the Surging Strike, if it wants to go particularly for that Fairy Terror
Like,
and apply a lot of pressure
I know
to the
that
buff,
there
we're
are
trying to
like
negate that as much as
there's
we
some
can.
great
Speaking of
players
teams,
in the
Lee, you just
world,
mentioned
like
we've got the Thunderous and the Landorus out on the field for Joe against
like
Rillaboom
Paul
and Heatran. The
Ruiz.
Intimidate really gonna pay
There's
off against that
plenty
Rillaboom.
of world
Yeah, definitely, and I think
champions
this puts Joe on a much
and Players
comfortable
Cup
position, but he
champions
does have to worry
to
about,
talk about.
that fake out still is going to come out. It is going to shut something down, but I think the trade-off here is
and-
probably if you get the fake out into the Landorus
and
here,
like-
then at least the Thunderous
and
can
we're
let
seeing
alone
them, Joe
potentially
Ugarte,
defend,
Justin
get that
Tang.
Thunderwave off and kind of
Like,
start
there's some
disrupting
great
Kenjo's side of
VGC
the
players.
field.
There's some great
Exactly, you're
TCG
gonna see
players.
an
There's
early
Andrew Mahomes. There's
terrestrialization
Azul
here from the
Garcia
Landorus, potentially
Griego.
gonna be able to go
There's
like a Terror Blast into this opposing
but
Rillaboom.
best
Will be fouled by
Pokemon
the fake
player
out.
period,
Really nice pressure
best
move going down
Pokemon
into that
trainer
opposing Heatran, gonna be
is
lowering
Sejun
its
Park.
special attack,
because
meaning it's not gonna be able to deal
he's
as
in
much
day
damage.
2 of
The Magma
TCG as a
Storm as well avoids
VGC
the
world
Thunderous.
champion.
That's a really good turn for Joseph here. Unfortunate that the
Now,
Storm is
that
one of the fallbacks with
is
the moves that have low
absolutely-
accuracy, so can miss. Joe taking advantage of that, does get that
What
Thunderwave off as well. Great for him, and he's
is-
in a great position now. That Eerie Impulse as well, we saw how much damage that Magma Storm did in game 1. Really being able to reduce
3
that,
hours
making sure
in.
that your Thunderous, if it is
3
the
hour
target,
mark.
sticks around on the field a lot longer. But the Landorus now terrestrializing, has access to some big
Yeah,
powerful attacks
I'd
to threaten
I'd
that
make
Rillaboom,
the
which we've
argument
seen
that
as
Sejun
the
Park
champion,
is
Cresselia hitting the field.
There's
the
Thunderwave, which
greatest
goes to protect of the opposing Heatran. You can really see
Pokemon
that
player
Kengo feels threatened
of
by
all
this
time.
Thunderous, constantly trying to attack it down. Landorus
Of
free
all
to move
time.
his turn, no fake out to contend with. Is able to
Until
go for that
somebody
Terror
else
Blast.
can
Lovely
do it.
switch by Kengo, though Cresselia going to be
Play
able
all
to
of
take
the
this so
games.
much better than the Rillaboom would have been able to. And Rillaboom now safe in the back to come in and fake out later in the match.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is, well, I think, Joseph making a really good lead here because it's forcing Kenjo to make these switches. He hasn't got any damage off onto the field really yet. And, the ally switch coming out as the Thunderous goes for that taunt as well to try and shut it down.
There we go, ally switch, you love to see it. It's going to be the taunt coming down into that opposing Heatran though, so Cresselia able to switch out of the way as Landorus goes for another Terror Blast here, using its flying typing here to target down into that opposing Cresselia. Fantastic adjustment by Kengo, allowing this Magma Storm to come out, find its mark, this time on the Landorus, however, maybe giving up and trying to catch that Thunderous, just trying to trap in the Landorus on this occasion.
Really good call there from Joseph as well to call out the Cresselia slot there with the Terror Blast, because obviously thinking that the ally switch coming out, you're not going to target into the Heatran slot. It's not going to be very effective against the Steel and the Fire type unless you're predicting maybe terrestrialization there into the Grass type, which can come out from this Heatran. But you can see how effective that Eerie Impulse is in really slowing down that Magma Storm, especially with the Assault Vest on that Landorus, able to take it pretty comfortably. It is trapped now, so it has to watch out going forward in this match, but things looking alright on Joseph's side of the field. Can threaten that Heatran with a big stomping tantrum still, something that Kenjo has to watch out for. But we are going to see terrestrialization from Kenjo's side.
Yes, it is going to be onto that Heatran. It is now Grass Terror type, and this does leave it a little bit more vulnerable, like you mentioned, Lee, to something like that Flying Terror type. Again, Heatran isn't really doing a lot offensively thanks to that Eerie Impulse, and it's going to have to take another one for good measure here from this Thunderous, but at least it's in a position where it can maybe start going for something like another Magma Storm and try and trap in the Thunderous. Landorus going for the Terror Blast, this time into that Cresselia. It does manage to get the knockout, but Heatran now sitting very pretty on the field.
Yeah, and the Heatran not going to be really worried about that Stomp and Tantrum anymore, but it has to worry about that Terra Blast coming out from the Landorus. Another miss from that Magma Storm into the Thunderous here, so the Thunderous really not wanting to get affected by it like it did in that game 1, but the Heatran 2 Eerie Impulses onto it, -4 special attack. It's not really going to have any impact on an offensive level going forward, but we do see a nice partner come in. That Single Strike Airship Kenjo hit the field, and it is going to be able to pressure things on Joseph's side of the field, but you've got to worry about the Landorus coming back if it doesn't get naked down, but it is taken down with that Wicked Blow.
It's down and out. Urshifu too strong with the critical hit. Will fell the Landorus, and now all eyes are on this Thunderous for Joseph. It's going to go for this Wild Ball Storm, a new move that's got access to, will connect on both the opposing Pokemon, and Magnum Storm, third time lucky, manages to find its mark onto that opposing Thunderous. Does a little bit of damage, but the critical thing here is it's now trapped, and that is a very, very powerful Urshifu on the opposing side for Kengo.
Yeah, and you might be wondering at home, the viewers, why the Thunderous didn't go for the Thunder Wave there into the Urshifu, but because of the Prankster ability not affecting Dark types, that is one of the reasons why the Thunderous and Joseph didn't go for that move to slow down the Urshifu. He had no option there to use any of the speed control, so the Wicked Blow coming out and cleaning up the Landorus, taking it down before it is any more of a threat to that Heatran in particular. So Kenjo protecting his side of the field really well, but Joe still in a good position, has lost his Terrestrialized Pokemon, but he still has his Fluttermane to come out, and one of the most powerful Pokemon in the format to really put a lot of pressure in particular onto that Urshifu this next turn.
Yes, and the Fluttermane rocking those choice specs as well is going to be able to hit really hard into something like that opposing Urshifu. You have to contend with the Focus Sash though on Kengo's Urshifu, so you're going to have to find, it's obviously had its damage chipped here, so you're going to be able to get a nice KO cleanly onto it. Kengo's in a bit of a difficult situation for it. Maybe wants to go for a Detect, try and find a way with Flash Cannon to deal with that opposing Fluttermane, but with all the Eerie Impulse drops that Heatran has got, it's going to be really underwhelming.
Yeah, and you kind of think at this point as well, the Heatran would probably prefer to be its regular typing here against the Fluttermane and the Thunderous here, because you know it's only really going to worry about what the Fluttermane can throw out. It has to worry about that combination though of that Thunder Wave and that Hex combination. But the Rillaboom coming in this turn, really nice switch from Kenjo, has access to that Fake Out, going to be able to prevent at least that combination for one turn, while the Heatran can maybe fire off a Flash Cannon again into that Fluttermane, which it is affected by, super effective.
I love this switch here by Kengo, knowing that you can't go for the Thunder Wave into the Dark-type Urshifu. Hey, let's try our Thunder Wave, maybe Hex combination into the opposing Heatran instead. Rillaboom coming in now has that fake up potential. You don't have to worry about a Thunder Wave going forward, and now we know that Fluttermane is going into the Dazzling Gleam as well.
Yeah, and the one thing you would say if you are Joe is I don't think you really worry too much about that Flash Cannon. 2 Eerie Impulses onto the Heatran. It's not really going to be hitting for big damage, so you've got a lot of room to kind of just start chipping things down. The Assault Vest on the Rillaboom on Kenjo's side of the field soaking things up well, but you know, Joe still has access to one more Pokemon, and we are going to see it hit the field now, and it is going to be his own Heatran, which matches up really well against that Rillaboom in particular.
Well, 3 Heatrans on the screen if you're including Joe's t-shirt there. The Thunder Wave is going to connect
Thunder
down
Wave
onto that
slows it
opposing
down.
Rillaboom, slow it down in its tracks just a little bit, trying to get a little bit momentum on Joseph's side of the field. Connect though. Oh my goodness, huge damage, but the Heatran is going to have to take a couple more of those in order to get the knockout. I mean, that little bit of extra chip could be detrimental, but I think it can still survive, particularly with the grassy terrain recovery. One more of those Earth Powers.
Yeah, that Earth Power call there, just covering bases in case the Heatran did come in, if that's what Kenjo expected, and really catching the Heatran, making it difficult for Joel to kind of get in a position with it to reutilize it this next turn. Rillaboom is paralyzed.
Those Eerie Impulses were so important.
Fire type attack that could potentially come out from the Heatran this turn, but Joel's Heatran does have to be careful because that Earth Power coming out from Kenjo's side could be really devastating if it, in particular, if it does take the knockout this next turn.
Heatran, I think, is definitely going to be key here. You need to make sure that it's going to have that longevity on the field. You can see Joe really hesitating over that substitute button. Maybe wants to try and keep it a little bit safe. You might think, hey, Heat Wave, look great, there's 2 grass types opposing you, but that Flash Fire ability on the opposing Heatran will still be activated, and it's not going to take any damage.
No, and we are going to see the Rillaboom switch out once more, and the Urshifu come back onto the field here. As the Protect comes out from Joseph Heatran, not want to contend with any big threats this next turn, as the Thunder Wave finally connects with the Heatran on Kenjo's side to slow it down and give it that paralysis status.
The only thing that this Thunderous does better than Revenge is getting paralysis onto the field, able to go for Thunder Wave after Thunder Wave and really slow down the momentum that Kengo is trying to build up here. You can see the recovery as well from that grassy terrain. Really nice to gain that little bit of chip recovery in order to maybe survive these big moves like the Earth Powers.
Yeah, I think for Kendra though, he's made a really nice switch. He's made it very difficult this next turn for Joe, because I think you may want to switch out your own Heatran, but you can't really switch out your Heatran into the Flutter Mane, because there's probably likely a Wicked Blow coming into that slot, and even if not into that slot, the Wicked Blow is going to be going into the Thunderous, and you probably don't have enough. Oh, it does survive though. That is a big survival.
Absolutely amazing. Windbolt Storm able to fire off back, not able to get a KO, however, as Heatran does go for the Heat Wave, will of course connect onto the Flash Fire, but does get the knockout onto that opposing Urshifu. It is down and out, and now Kengo only has 2 Pokemon remaining. The Rillaboom will be forced to come back in.
Oh!
And there's a paralysis on the Heatran, a terrible turn
that's
for Kengo.
huge.
That is a huge turn for Joseph, and a great comeback. He is really starting to build this momentum now. Getting the knockout onto that Urshifu, huge here. Making sure that, you know, the survival there, this Heatran able to take that Wicked Blow. Huge turn for Joe, so he's able, the paralysis obviously a real bonus for him not to have to deal with an Earth Power, even though probably at this range of -4 he would be able to probably take that, I think. But the fact is that he's still got the Heatran, he's still got that Thunderous on the field, and the Rillaboom is going to enter the field, but it is paralyzed at this point. Both Pokemon pretty healthy though on Kenjo's side.
Yes, wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a Protect on Joseph's Heatran here, just in case there is going to be that rogue fake out coming out from the opposing Rillaboom. You don't want to have to take any unnecessary damage, particularly as the Heatran on Joe's side isn't looking the most healthy, and you can try and fire off some big damage in the next turn. There's the Protect.
Yeah.
Get the grassy terrain, get the leftovers.
He's going to come into the Thunderous slot, but no, another Heat Impulse really hindering this Heatran, putting it down to -6 special attack, so it's not going to be doing very much at all as the fully paralysis comes out from that Rillaboom. Not going to be able to move this turn, and the Thunderous avoiding as well.
I mean, that Thunderous is incredible. It's now dodged 3 of these Magma Storms from the opposing Heatran. And Heatran, you know, like you said, -6 special attack. It's really not going to be dealing too much damage at all. It's a lot of pressure being applied onto it to really neutralize the pressure it's got.
Yeah, the one thing you would have to watch out for if you're on Joe's side of the field is the Rillaboom on Kenjo's team does have access to Stomp and Tantrum, so that can be a big detriment to your own Heatran, so you've got to watch out for that.
Yes, only the Heatran taking a little bit of damage from this Windbolt Storm. You can see it's really not doing too much, but there's not a lot Heatran can, that the Thunderous can even do in this situation. Heatran, on the other hand, can do a lot to that opposing Rillaboom. There's going to be more paralysis to be had on Kengo's side. The Rillaboom's unable to retaliate and get some damage off. Magma Storm finally will connect back down onto the Thunderous. But to be honest, if I was Joseph at this point, this Thunderous is set on the field. There's not a lot more it can do. It's throwing out all the Thunder Waves it needs, and the Windbolt Storm is really underwhelming. I'd always be happy for it to go down to bring my Flutter Mane in from the back to start cleaning up this match.
Yeah, I think that's what you would like if you're Joseph. You don't really want to make the switch and get caught with an attack on the switch. You kind of want to bring your Flutter Mane in a really healthy position and just get as much chip with the Thunderous as you can before it does go down to give you that free switch. And like you mentioned here, with that chip damage from the Magma Stone, giving them the free switch into the Flutter Mane, coming in fresh onto the battlefield and going to be able to throw out some big threatening attacks to both these Pokemon. The Rillaboom now taking a lot of damage from that Heat Wave, putting it in range for this Flutter Mane to do a bit, you know, even a Dazzling Gleam here is probably going to be enough. But we are going to just see that Hex combination, double damage, picking up the KO onto the Rillaboom, and that Heatran in a position now where it's not really going to be threatening after all
I
of
don't
those
know how I feel about
Joseph managed this game perfectly, going for a substitute as well, as it is the faster of the two to the paralysis, and another fully paralysis from the Heatran on Kenjo's side. Not
if I'm
going
Kengo,
well for
I'm
Kenjo in
getting
this game. Really unfortunate from that side of
tilted.
things, but really paying off for Joe, utilizing that Thunder Wave, and you can see the added bonus of that move and utilizing it like he has done in this game.
Yeah, insult to injury there, I think, a little bit with the paralysis. And Flutter Mane in a great position. Normally we'd be worrying about the potential flash cannon coming out from this Heatran, but thanks to all of the special attack drops and the power of Hex, it just needs one more in order to clean up that match. But it looks like Heatran's got its back, going for the Earth Power, not enough to get the KO, but there's really not a lot the opposing Heatran can do to remove the threat from Joseph's side. Here's the flash cannon going down into the opposing Flutter Mane. Look at that tiny damage. That's not something we see every day when a Steel type move connects with Flutter Mane.
No, not at all. The special defense drop there, not really going to matter too much because this Flutter Mane in a position to just clean things up with that Hex now going into this next turn. And you've got to say that Joseph has managed the game a lot better in this game too, to tie it up, to take it to a game 3 here. It's inevitable now that the Hex will be enough to pick up the knockout onto this Heatran, and the battle of the Heatrans here was definitely won by Joseph. You got it, tying this matchup 1-1.
you can see how much more comfortable he was piloting that team as well in game 2. The synergy that he wanted to get off was activated. He was able to drive a lot of offensive pressure with Pokemon like the Heatran, and as well, the Fluttermane, keeping that nice and safe in the back, but making sure that it could come in a position where it wasn't being threatened by that Heatran, I think was a really critical strategy for Joe to be executing there. Going into this game 3, however, do you think Wochien is going to come back onto Joseph's 4 that he's going to bring?
I don't know. I think that Joel led so perfectly in that match. I think it really put Kenjo on the back foot from the beginning with that Landorus coming out to support the Thunderous there. I think Wo Chen could be an option, but I think the 4 that he picked probably are the right 4 into this match. The Fluttermane in the late game, once he'd been able to kind of do all the work that he needed to with his other 3 Pokemon, was kind of the perfect strategy. He got so much return from his Landorus.
This is gonna have to be my last battle.
Terastallization.
I don't think I'm gonna be streaming the
if it does terastallize, it pressures that Urshifu
championship battles because I'm gonna be house sitting again. I'll
when
be
you see it
back
come
with
onto
my
the field,
parents.
you kind of get a little bit
And
you think, oh, this thing is going to be hitting
instead of
really
sitting
hard, but
in front of
because
the
of the
computer
lack of
in
the
my
choice back
office
using
chair,
that wicked blow, it's not
I think I'm
hitting
gonna sit
as
on the
hard,
couch
which is a great thing for Joe, and
in
he
front
picked
of
up on from that game 1.
a
So I think a
much
comfortable
larger
lead going
TV
in with
that they
Thunderous
have.
and Landorus. It gives you a lot
So
of
I hope you
options.
understand.
Impulse really shutting down options on Kenjo's side of the field.
There
So I
will be
think
no
maybe
side
going
commentary.
for a bit more of a physical offense this time around. for
I'm
Kenjo
still
might be an
completely
option
shocked
from
that
what we could
Seijun
essentially
Park
see
is
rather than
playing the
that special
TCG
attacking side.
in day
Well,
2
like you said, physical
of the
offense,
Pokemon
Rillaboom and
Worlds.
Urshifu are now on the field lead, so fantastic call by yourself against those unique combinations against Thunderous and Landorus on the field for Joseph. The Intimidate definitely going to be detrimental to Kengo's side. Thank goodness Wicked Blow critical hits every time.
Yeah, but the one thing you would say about leading with both the Rillaboom and the Urshifu is they're both very susceptible to this Terra flying that could potentially come out from the Landorus, but Joe not wanting to contend with that, switching it straight out, keeping it for later.
Yeah, and there's going to be an Urshifu joining the field on Joe's side. It is, however, this one, the Rapid Strike variant. Going to have to take the cheeky fake out from the opposing Rillaboom here as Wicked Blow comes straight up into the opposing Urshifu, not going to be dealing too much damage. And now this Thunderous once again in a prime position to get out some good damage. The Wild Bolt Storm is going to connect down onto the opposing Rillaboom. Unfortunately not able to connect onto that Urshifu. That would have been great for Joe in order to break the focus sash. But there's an early paralysis on the Rillaboom.
Yeah, the secondary effect of that Wimble Storm, picking up the paralysis and doing easy work with a bit of damage like the Thunder Wave without actually clicking into it. Now, the Urshifu switch here is nice for Joseph because he has been able to kind of soak up that big Wicked Blow that came out pretty well, pretty comfortably, but it is going to be threatened this next turn from that Rillaboom. It is going to threaten it, even if it is paralyzed. It is still, if it connects with any of those grass type attacks, especially under the grassy terrain, going to threaten it pretty hard here. And the Terra typing on it doesn't really complement the defensive typing to allow it to take it. It is a water type, so probably needs to kind of switch it out here. Both Pokemon have been intimidated, but we are going to see the Urshifu on Kenjo's side switch out this turn.
Yeah, it just wants to make an adjustment, doesn't want its focus sash to get unnecessarily broken. This is a nice adjustment though. The Choice Band Dragonite has graced us with its presence. As the Wild Bolt Storm comes through, it is going to connect down to the Dragonite and break the multi-scale. That can be big later on in the game here for Joseph as close combat connects down into the opposing Rillaboom. Urshifu now very, very vulnerable, having its special defense and its defense dropped thanks to that close combat. As the Wood Hammer is in retaliation, gets a solid KO against it, boosted by the grassy terrain. The defense dropped. That was unfortunate there for the Urshifu.
That was big.
Getting some nice damage onto the Rillaboom here, but not quite enough. I think Joseph probably would have liked to have seen the fully paralysis there on the Rillaboom. I think that would have really helped him out. Keep that Urshifu on the field. The nice thing that he did get though was breaking that multi-skill on the Dragonite whilst chipping down the Rillaboom, putting it in a position now where potentially a Hex is going to be enough to pick up the knockout with that Fluttermane joining the field. And the Dragonite, of course, it has just said, I'm just showing up, I'll come back later.
That's gotta be heat
with
ram.
his dragon typing and multi-scale broken, doesn't want to have to take any unnecessary fairy damage. And there was the Dazzling Gleam as well. We'll get the KO on that Rillaboom, but Heatran, the perfect Pokemon to switch into any of these fairy type attacks. And it looks mean and ready to get some retribution here. Wild Bolt Storm will connect, does actually a significant chunk of damage to that opposing Heatran on the switch-in, and gets the paralysis on it. Insult to injury from the Thunderous. It is really staking up a rivalry with this Heatran throughout the set.
Yeah, it's a single target attack rather than a spread attack. It's doing a lot more damage, a bit more impactful. So the Heatran really getting caught out there. The Dazzling Gleam picking up the Rillaboom. So Joe's still hanging in there, trying to pull this match back. A nice switch in from Kenjo, especially like you say with those resists to that Dazzling Gleam from the Fluttermane. And you know that the Fluttermane has now locked itself into Dazzling Gleam, doesn't have access to that Hex, which makes it a little bit not as impactful as it probably would like to be with that kind of price.
I don't know. I think I start Eerie Impulsing.
We're going to see the Dragonite now hit the field of Kenjo, and not really going to be affected by the Eerie Impulse like that Heatran is, but still has to watch out for that T-Wave that could come out, Thunder Wave from the Thundurus.
And Joe knows the Dragonite is choice band, so isn't going to be able to protect here. I think it's a wise terrestrialization here from Kengo, going for the normal Terra type, just so you do not have that fairy weakness. It's going to go for the extreme speed. Obviously, it's not going to be able to connect into a ghost type, but it can connect down into the Thundurus and start applying some pressure. Rocky Helmet going to keep chipping away a little bit, and the choice spec Dazzling Gleam still dealing a significant chunk. Dragonite is not safe in this next turn.
Yeah, not safe at all. The Wind Bolt's on
so many misses.
With the Heatran, but does connect with that Dragonite and does pick up the knockout, not really getting the impact that
and
Kenjo wanted.
the Landorus in the back to take on the Heatran.
I love the way this Thundurus has switched the offensive. Windbolt Storm after Windbolt Storm here. Fluttermane does take a significant chunk from that Steel type move coming out from the Heatran, but it is able to survive. It does have a pretty good, decent special defense on the Fluttermane, but still big damage coming out from that Heatran.
Yeah, and the thing is, it hasn't been affected by the Eerie Impulse this turn, so that Flash Cannon you can see doing big damage, really putting that Fluttermane into knockout position this next turn. And with the Urshifu kind of hitting the field now, it does have access to Sucker Punch, knowing that the Fluttermane is locked into that Dazzling Gleam. It can go for the Sucker Punch quite easily here, or do you lock yourself into something like the Wicked Blow and predict the switch out, because the Fluttermane in a position now where it's going to be a sitting duck to take that Sucker Punch this next turn. So you could catch something on the switch, maybe that Landorus if it does come in to try and get an Intimidate off, and also then double up with maybe a big spread, just a Magma Storm maybe from the Heatran. It doesn't have access to the Heat Wave, unfortunately.
Well, there is going to be adjustment. Landorus able to jump in. Of course, the Focus Sash still intact on that opposing Urshifu. Joseph has to find a way to hit it twice to be able to try and get the knockout. Wicked Blow is what the move choice was for the Urshifu. Does a huge chunk to that opposing Landorus on the switch, and here's the Wild Bolt Storm once again. The Urshifu dodging out of the way. It says, hey, if you can miss the Magma Storms, I can miss your Wind Bolt Storms. Magma Storm, however, is going to connect down onto Landorus and get the KO.
Yeah, not a really unfortunate miss with that Wild Bolt Storm onto the Urshifu, because you wanted to break that Focus Sash, and it's not the Pokemon that you want to be missing it. Out of the two, you think, let me just hit the Urshifu.
Yes,
really unfortunate for Joe there. But a great turn from Kenjo calling the switch there, knowing that the Fluttermane was in a really precarious position with what it was locked into with that choice specs. Sitting duck for Sucker Punch and taking advantage of that with the switch into Landorus. No impact from that Pokemon. Kenjo putting himself in a really good position to look like he's going to be able to close this one out, but it's not over just yet.
It's definitely not. Urshifu in a great position though to go for something like that Sucker Punch. You know the Fluttermane can't protect, so it's no surprise Joe going for the Fairy Terra type onto that Fluttermane, dropping its Ghost typing and therefore its weakness to these Dark type moves. Whether it's going to be enough though, we'll have to see. Fluttermane does not have very good physical defense, and we know that Urshifu can hit really, really hard as well. So if that is the target choice, and it is the Sucker Punch, will not get the KO! The Terra Fairy coming in clutch, able to go for the Dazzling Gleam. This will bring the opposing Urshifu right down to his Focus Sash, a little bit of chip onto the Heatran, but wow, let's go Fluttermane.
What a huge survival here on the Fluttermane. Great choice for the Terra, able to get that Dazzling Gleam off, get it down to its Sash in the Wind Bolt Storm. Does it hit? And misses which one? Oh, it misses the Urshifu. Not the target. This again, so unfortunate for Joe, but the Flash Cannon coming out into the Thundurus here, and both Pokemon staying on the field for Joe, but going to be really in such a precarious position this next turn, because the Sucker Punch is now, although it didn't do too much damage that last turn, going to be able to pick up the knockout this turn onto that Fluttermane and leaving the Thundurus in a position where it is going to get taken down from the Heatran.
Let's see.
This is an exciting finish.
Joe is praying that it's going to connect and do enough to the opposing Urshifu. It does connect, manages to get it, gets the double knockout. Joseph Ugarte is going to be able to take this set in a best of 3 thriller.
That is an incredible comeback from Joe, not giving up as well right till the last minute. The Wild Bolt Storm,
that was great,
giving him so much trouble through that whole set, missing the Pokemon that it didn't want to the whole time, and then in that final move, locking in, getting connection with both Pokemon and picking up the knockout to pick up the knockout.
Alright, let's...
That Mew V also probably would have lost this game, but he kind of recognized based on what Seijun did turn 1, wasn't going to be super likely he could pull all of that off. and then that allowed him to get a prize, also put that Mew V back into the deck with those Fusion Strike energies, more importantly, so those resources were available to him later in the game.
Yeah, it's almost a bait like we've seen many times.
Which way do I have to go? I have to go this way.
Behind the door, and there was an opportunity. Maybe Azul just finds the Meloetta, finds the return knockout there in a situation where the only Mew is knocked out, and then Azul is going to be ahead in that situation, as a lot of resources would have been sacrificed there from Sage.
There you go.
Who knows? Now we're going to jump into the next game here and see what these players have to work with in game 2.
Looks like we might have a broken sleeve, so we'll have to get that sorted out as we look at our recap from game number 1. These players are waiting here to get set up, it looks like, actually, for game number 2. Here is the recap, though. Cramomatic flips the heads, always feels really nice.
Yep, this led to a turn 1 knockout in an unusual fashion, as we see the Mew hiding back in the deck.
Let's see. See, there it is.
Back and forth with these single prize Pokemon in a deck that does not often use these Pokemon.
Pachirisu was cheering Seijin on, but was unable to help him.
The Pachirisu fell. That's why it didn't work out.
Watching and Seijin, I think, making a wise decision to concede this one. Maybe could have scooped a little bit quicker, but this is a matchup that we're not really going to have to worry about a tie happening, most likely.
Yeah, I think that Seijin is in a good spot.
Yeah, both of these decks play pretty fast, so
if you go second,
I'm just gonna finish off this set, and then I'm probably gonna call it a night, because when Seijun is on stream, you can't turn off.
Very much pay attention to the meta.
You can't turn off
the best
the stream.
From the best
He
players.
is.
Seijun won Korean nationals with this deck, and
He
in
is
that list, Seijun did have the Drapion V. So I'm
just
sure it's something Azul has
the
in the back of his mind.
greatest
It's game 1, but I'm not going to totally
Pokemon
discount
player.
it just yet.
He can play it all. He played Unite for a little
It's going to
bit.
be pretty popular. It is what the number 1 or 2 deck.
I haven't heard if he's played Go
unreal.
before.
Quite a difference from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, number 7
But while
yesterday. Not even making the graphic. Sure enough. A lot
doing
of
all
popularity
this,
switching over. Maybe we're not so worried about
let's
those Drapions and Spirits.
take a look at
Yeah, I
the
mean, you got some
pairings.
play around the Spiritombs with
See how everybody's
and
doing.
You have some options against Drapion with Velocity and Path to the Peak, depending on what the situation is. So, even though a Mew player doesn't ever love seeing either of those 2 cards, you do have some play around it.
Yeah, I mean,
Neil
Azul's up
Patel
right
is
now.
still
He doesn't
3-0.
care about any of that. It works out just fine. Sometimes you're going to face off against those kind of cards, but it just shows the power of this deck, the versatility.
Paul Chua,
To live on.
I think we got a
3-0.
sleeve delivered to the stage, but may have been the wrong colors. So we got to make sure all 60 sleeves are in good condition and also the correct color. We'll get it sorted out here shortly to get into our second game.
Emilio Forbes
Seijun's
won
got a bit of
round
a history
3.
with this Miraidon deck, like we mentioned a few times. He got first place at the Korean
Shiliang
National
Tang
Tournament.
is
Azul
2
has
and
a bit of
1.
history with Mute VMAX as well, though. He played it a lot whenever regionals came back in March, April of 2022. He played this
Eric
deck quite a
Rios
bit, but with day 2
won
and
round
quite
1 and is now
it's interesting to see
1
how
and
things have
2.
kind of changed. Obviously, the meta is pretty different. Tons of new sets are legal for this tournament compared to back then.
Alberto
But Azul
Lara
wasn't
is 1
scared
and
of
2.
the fact that he had poor success with the deck in the past. He recognized
Paul
he felt like
Ruiz
he
is
was
2 and
better for
1.
the deck, and even though some results in the past might have said it wasn't the best, he felt like it was still solid to roll with.
Yeah, and that's always been the type of player that Azul's been, at least with
James
his
Evans is still playing right now, and he's 0 and 2. So he's gonna have to go 5 and 0 if he wants a shot.
So much versatility. It works great for a player of Azul's caliber, where you can target down some of those weaknesses, maybe surprise some of your opponents, make them walk into some awkward situations where they don't even know that they're losing the game until they've done it.
Yeah, let's get this man a sleeve. let's get the sleeve out here.
Can we use code GG for 10% off that sleeve?
Yeah, we need an express shipping at this point.
That's a great joke. If you haven't watched Azul,
Largest content
and
creators
you-
in the Pokemon TCG
and
space.
you wanna
Seijun
get
as well,
into it.
someone who creates plenty of content over in Korea, streams himself playing the TCG, the VGC, all his various games. He
See?
of course did even place top 8, I believe, in Pokemon Unite at last year's World Championships.
I imagine he is his own team in Pokemon Unite.
Yes.
No. I mean, you still need, you gotta have 5 people in
He's team captain at
refuses.
least.
He's just got.
He
He's playing
runs,
on
he
5
runs
different
from
phones.
monitor to monitor.
He is just that good.
He really
You know,
is.
we mentioned his successes in all the other games. He did finish top 32 back at the 2016 World Championships in the trading card game. I think that's his best TCG finish at Worlds. He was playing a pretty unique one back then. It was that Fighting Zygarde EX Vile Plume deck. He was one of the only people playing that in Day 2 of Worlds, and he did take it to a top 32.
Yeah, the last time I saw Zygarde was when we had the fly match, where the fly kept flying around on the stream. Yeah, it turned into a little bit of a meme.
We've had a few too many of those fly matches. Isaiah Bradner squashing flies on the table at regionals this year. Yeah, they make their way up onto the stage here and there. Let's see if this is the one. Oh, looks like we've just brought the backpack.
Just give him a new deck. I have Mew VMAX backstage, and you just want to try it.
Here we go. Sleeve being fetched out. Get it all sorted. We'll get into this game number 2. So for Sajin, as we get into game number 2 here, you set up pretty nicely in game 1. You had quite a few options of what you wanted to go for, but you unfortunately came up short. You lost game number 1. What adjustments would you like to see from Sajin as we get into the second game of the match?
Well, it's unfortunate just the way that the draws panned out. As we saw the bosses order.
Listening to the Uncommon Energy podcast, this is a little surprising actually that
we were not able
Azul's
to go for
not
that. We didn't see the resources there, so
finding.
I would try to prioritize finding that more seal stone. If you get that down onto your board, then you have
Sleeve.
almost a guarantee that you'll be able to target down with boss's orders on turn 2. So that early squawkabilly seems like a strong strategy, but then you just need to prioritize boss's orders or
Because he
seal
talks,
stones to get
he,
to the credit.
there's been a couple of marked sleeve
Having a re-sleeve
DQs.
of decks. We're going to take just a moment, step away from the game. We'll get back into it very shortly. You got to make sure that there's no marked cards out there, right?
Are you ready to switch to live? Let me just try that.
Yeah, you can't break any sleeves on the computer. Azul might find a way. I don't
He
know.
would. He's played enough.
Azul is actually a player who I know is very meticulous with his sleeves. I see him after rounds pull his deck back out of the deck box and just look at the sides, look at the bottom, each side, go through the back of each sleeve to make sure there's no marks at all. He does not want to get a penalty for having a marked sleeve.
Yeah, he's talked about it before. He's taken notes from other teammates. Caleb showed him how to sleeve a deck, which is something that's hilarious for a player who's been playing for 20 years to finally learn how to sleeve. But there's a right way, I guess. It's kind of like
You kind of just do everything you can to minimize the chance of making a mark, right?
Yep, I think back to like the basketball coaches telling you how to put your socks on so that you avoid
You
any
had to
of
be
those
taught how to
issues.
put your socks on?
Yeah, there was like the UCLA coach would tell you how to do it perfectly so that you.
Yeah,
wouldn't
and
get
this is
those-
what I was talking about. Is like Azul
We're
really
going that deep, but yeah.
like if you ever listen to him and Chip Ritchie's podcast,
I might need to take a lesson.
Azul
doesn't really work for us.
is
This isn't really an
super,
athletic thing that we do, Chip.
super like if it looks marked, that's why you have extras. So the fact that he doesn't have
I'm at
an
I'm
extra.
at 5,000 steps. I have not performed well today.
We'll get back to the stage here shortly, get into this next one. We do, of course, have plenty of other games happening out in the field. We saw our key matches earlier on, things we were going to be keeping our eye on. Tons of onlookers, people here for the World Championships, ready to cheer on their favorite players, cheer on their family, cheer on their friends as well, and honestly, just watch some great Pokemon play out.
Yeah, it feels like every 5 seconds you're looking around and you're just bouncing from screen to screen as, oh, something cool happened in Go. What's going on in Unite? And then TCG, every once in a while we get excited about some stuff.
Yeah, I obviously focus on the Pokemon TCG, but I do try to get a moment to watch a game or two of all the other Pokemon games happening. And it's
I
just
am
so
excited
exciting,
to
and it's such a momentous
watch
occasion for
Unite.
everyone, right? We
That'll
talked about
that'll
over
be
and over
Sunday
how
for
it
me.
feels so special to be here.
Sunday I
It's
will
World Championship,
watch
but it's not
Unite.
just true for us. It's true for the competitors.
After
It's true for our co-casters across all the various pillars of Pokemon, and for the players in all those various pillars.
Yeah, after the championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor for us, but of course, as players before, that was the thing that we lived for every single year. That's what we were looking for. We wanted to go to nationals, and then, of course, to the World Championships. And I feel like I lived my life like 5 weekends at a time per year, as I would just really focus on these specific events, seeing all my friends from all across the nation, and then eventually the world as well, as we started to branch great to see all these people once more. And I mean, I've been doing it for 2 decades, man.
Yeah,
I know way too many people in this venue.
You bumped into anyone from a different country over the course of the weekend that you haven't seen in a couple of years? Someone that you caught up with for a moment, maybe?
I mean, not as cool as some UK friends. So, but yeah, it's just as special. I feel like it's not as big now that we see everybody at all of the international events.
Sure,
that we
we
have
do
now.
see everyone a few times a year now.
Right. So
Like,
it's just as special to see them, but it means a little bit more when it was just that one time a year. It's oh, you've grown like 8 inches now, dude. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, what's always been cool for me is just seeing some of the juniors that, you know, we casted games for, you know, a couple of years ago. You know, they're in the senior division now, and it's not going to be too much longer that we look at them, and they're in the Masters division doing really well. You know, when I started playing, Isaiah Bradner was a senior, and, you know, he lives kind of in my area, so I'd see him in cups every once in a while. He was playing in the seniors division, I was playing in Masters, and now I look at him, and he's one of the top players in North America in the Masters division. It's just been really cool to watch players kind of grow up with this game.
Yep, I had a
He just
similar
doesn't
run-in
know
with
how to
John A.
use
when I
Irritable.
moved to Maryland for school, and he was what,
Oh
9 years old at the time, whatever it was,
Irritate.
which dates me horribly.
That
but-
was
I
the
go
first
to
like
his local
element
league to go
of
check it out. He's like,
drama.
God, it's Kyle Sable-House. Now I'm like, oh my God, it's John A.
It's really how it is. Yeah, I mean, John's had a kind of interesting start today. He played Michael Pramawat round 1, I saw. You said you were sitting next to both of them when the pairings went up, right?
Right, we're looking at the pairings and figuring out who's playing each other. They're sitting right next to each other, and they go, seriously, bro? Later on, we look at the rest. Pablo sitting 2 feet away from us on the other side. I'm like, you got a Zool.
Yeah. Brian DeVries up against Tord Reklev round 1. I mean, there was just tons of top tier matches.
Oh yeah, I wonder how Tord's
played
doing.
against Alessandro Cremasoli from Italy round 1. So many great games.
Yeah, every
Azul's
single
back
round
on
that we played,
stage.
there were at least 3 matches that caught my eye, and I just had to continue watching. Well, we got one
Yep.
more here.
I think we've got some sleeves on the deck. Let's get into this game, number 2.
No time extension.
No, we see it ticking up right now. Quite the time extension. I think that's 13 minutes, something like that. 12, 13 minutes added to our clock to make up for this break. And Kyle, I am as ready as I have ever been to get into a Pokemon TCG match.
Right, we talked about how fast this can go in this matchup, and it's been a little bit of a drag.
If there was not the resleeve, we might already be done.
I would think so. Well, we'll see what these players have to say about that. Starting off with multiple Feather Ball looked like in the hand for Azul. And as we mentioned, in that early knockout in the beginning is going to be so important. Sajin says, yeah, I'm going to go second.
Yeah, that's a really interesting call. Losing game 1, choosing to go second. He did go first in that first game. Maybe just not being totally aware of what Azul was playing, wanted to try to get a little bit of an edge, but now recognizing the matchup, this is what he wants to do.
Well, not with this hand. That looks like one of the worst ones I've seen in a long time.
On Sajin's end?
On Sajin's side, yeah. It's Flappy, Boss's Orders, Penny, 3 Lightning.
Yeah, that's not great. And imagine having to sit there and look at that hand while your opponent's re-sleeving for 10 minutes.
for 10 minutes, and then they throw down the equivalent of a Battle VIP pass.
A 2-card combo VIP pass here coming
Which
out.
doesn't even grab Genesect. Unlucky.
We'll see what else Azul has waiting in his hand. A couple Feather Balls. A pretty versatile card in this deck. You can get the new V and the VMAX, but it's also a card that you can just always play out. And honestly, on Azul's end, I don't know how many playable cards there were.
Yeah, you start to worry when you don't see the Battle VIP pass, of course. You have a few Pokemon to work with, but thinning down the hand for this opening Genesect V is going to be tricky without a card like Ultra Ball, and I don't see that just yet, but it looks like there is energy, maybe even a Stadium card if you want to play that down. So
Looks like it will just be 1 card drawn on this Genesect.
YOLO.
VIP pass for the win? Nope. It is a Genesect though, okay. I think we take that.
That's the... Oh, and it finds the Battle VIP too.
Very nice draw. Massive hit there for Azul. Can now get the 3rd Genesect in play.
If you're Sajin, you just want to go home. Unless that top deck is really nice.
Yeah, I think hoping for maybe a Nest Ball to just get Squawkabilly EX and just find something else. Even a Research. You know, there are a lot of good draws here for Sajin, that is for sure.
Yeah, all the bad ones are in his hand.
A couple more cards added here off of Fusion Strike system. Looks like there is a VMAX waiting for the next turn. Azul will need to find a way to get this Genesect out of the active, and that
Whoa.
path is actually huge.
Lightning!
Sage draws, and it is just a lightning energy.
What do you do? Penny!
No, the noble way to go out. Oh, this game could be over basically immediately. All Sagen can do is attach this lightning energy to this active Zapdos. There's no basic Pokemon in his hand. The only supporter he could play is Boss's Orders, and the only Pokemon he would want to bring up is a different Genesect. Azul draws for turn. It is an Ultra Ball. That will allow him to thin this hand down. He's just mapping it out.
I mean,
Does he
there's
have
an
it?
Alessa Sparkle in there. You could at least get the energies ready to roll, but it's you're dealing with a 2 retreat cost here, so you're gonna see what he prioritizes here. You can of course thin down and maybe have opportunities.
Azul's just trying to do the math to figure out what is his maximum chance to win this game, and it's definitely going for the win this turn. He's gonna map it out and try to think about what exactly he needs to do. Looks like the active Genesect was chosen on the Alessa Sparkle as a target. This means a Fusion Strike energy, a double turbo energy, a switch cart, an escape rope. So many things Azul could find here to move this Genesect from the active, and all he would need is a VMAX in order to win the game this turn, and VMAX is already coming into play.
Has that in hand, also has the Ultra Ball if you want to thin down, but I think you have the luxury of playing this tablet and then drawing here now. If the hand is completely clogged, you can get rid of those cards. Cram-O-Matic added to the hand. Still looking for the energy.
Azul needs so little here. He doesn't have it
Control
just
one
yet.
more.
And what is awkward about this Cram-O-Matic is the only card he could ditch with it would be the Ultra Ball. So it might be better to actually just play the Ultra Ball, play out the rest of the cards, hang on to the Cram-O-Matic.
Yeah, at this point, you don't have to worry about the prize exchange. You can go ahead and evolve that Mew VMAX that you have now.
Such a high odds chance to just win the game here. It would feel really bad to miss out. It is technically possible, though. It is far from guaranteed.
Like, Choice Belt was also a card in the hand. You play that down.
He's got 2 more Genesects.
Genesect number 2.
All Azul needs is an escape rope or an energy card. Either of those things wins him the game instantly. There is the double turbo energy. That is all he needs. Attached to the active. Move it to the bench. And UV Max able to take out Zapdos. And Sagen Park really was not able to do
good.
much in game number 2.
Yep. That's how it goes sometimes. And on the world
All
stage,
right.
it's very
Well,
unfortunate
I'm gonna
to
call
see
it
that,
there
but
because
you have
it's
to
getting pretty late.
give shout out
It's
to Azul.
11:30.
It's a very strong deck. Looks like it's gonna
3.5
be one that
hour
we need to
stream.
look out for now, as it is 3-0, and
All right.
good players running it.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks
absolutely. I mean, what a
for
start
watching.
from Azul. 3-0 at the World
Highly
Championships.
recommend checking
Sagen is
out
far from
the
eliminated at this point.
actual
Still a
streams.
solid start,
Again,
but
these are TPCI,
4
not
more wins, and
my
then just look to ID
streams.
that last round if your resistance is good enough. But
Have a great rest
you
of your
got a player
night.
like Azul Garcia
Peace.